streaming, because obviously I don't want to keep them waiting. Right, wait for it to catch up. Hang on. Come on, catch up, catch up. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Just waiting for it to do its thing. Ah, there we are. Right. Sorry to keep you in the wait there, folks. We're a person down this evening. Lydia is not joining us tonight, even though she would have liked to have been here. The only thing I am obliged to tell you at this time, it's personal family issues. That is all I am obliged to say at this time. Lids, if you happen to listen to this later, you know we're thinking of you, and stay strong.
Love you.
Yeah, that's all we can say. We're at 100 episodes. I never thought it would actually ever get this far. Especially if you go back to the pilot episode that I put out in August of 2017. That thing was a piping hot mess. I think the majority of the stuff that was going on, people could just hear Oni playing on, Sonic Mania for a while and kept bitching about DSP. And I'm like, dude, don't even bring him up into this conversation. He's not even that noteworthy. But then again, I'm reminded of two simple words. It's Oni.
You wouldn't have it any other less, no matter how much it's annoying.
I know. Great guy, but he can be his own worst enemy. And as much as he will begrudge that sort of thing, he probably will be like, yeah, you're right. And L-Man is going to be able to have your first beer. Don't push your luck. There are a slew of topics for this evening that we will get into. I'm going to save things because some of the topics I've got listed is, talking about SKL at 100. I'd rather have most of the crew here available for that. So for that, we need both Kaiju and Win. And the other ones that's going to be talking about are, best guests and most cringe moments, which with this podcast there's been more than one. One of which to note, random. You're my brother. I love you to pieces. But that guy getting kicked out of the mall video, what the hell? God, that was... Ugh. I think he purposely sends videos my way knowing that it's going to wind me up. And it's just like, if you didn't want me to, to bite your head off, why'd you send me stuff that you know is going to aggravate me? But then again, every one of us has one of those members in our family, and I have the random.
It can be a gift and a curse, isn't it?
No comment. I could say something to that, but we're live, and anything I say live could be held against me later, so it's just like, no comment. One thing I do want to talk about, just to get things off to a nice pace, is it has been confirmed for March 16, not this Monday, but next Monday coming, Stone Cold Steve Austin will be at WWE Raw for Stone Cold Day, because March is the third month of the year. 16, 316 days. So
there you go.
A lot of people are sort of, speculating, well, aside from it being Stone Cold Day, which I'm glad that thing has become a thing since 2016. They're speculating, what is his reason for being at Raw? Is it to do a contract signing? Is it to announce he's going to be an official? Some are speculating he's going to announce he's going to come out of retirement. I'm going to be like, hold your horses a second. I don't think it's going to be that. Part of me would love for him to announce that he's going to come out of retirement and challenge Brock Lesnar for the belt, but then that undermines Drew McIntyre. Now, I'm not the biggest McIntyre fan, but the guy has worked his ass off to get where he is now. I think if you were to bring Stone Cold back in for a possible, one last match, it wouldn't be to be part of the WWE title because, well, as much as I love Austin, he hasn't done anything to earn it. He's paid his dues, yes, but he didn't win a number one contenders match, and he didn't win the Rumble, and if he had done, he would have been the only superstar to win it 4 times. The only person now who has any chance of making it to 4 times is Cena. But let's be fair, I'll be very, very surprised if Cena is even in the title hunt picture in the next few years, because the guy is getting up there. And because in about 7 years, the guy's going to be 50, if you can believe. So I don't know how much longer he's going to be in the game for. I mean, part of me, and I say this objectively, part of me wants him to break Ric Flair's record just so we could have done with it. Rip the Band-Aid off, it's done. Then that's a measuring stick for someone else to aspire to the future. It's like, oh, I need to win this 18th time. He goes, why? So I can knock Cena off the top. But then again, they've probably been saying the same thing with Ric Flair for, the last 20 plus years. So I don't know what Austin's going to be there for. He might be looking just to try and get somebody over, because he has said, he would love to be brought back into WWE, but if it was to get a worthy superstar over. Raiden, what do you think they're going to bring Austin in for, other than the fact, hey, it's Stone Cold Day?
Honestly, and when it comes to any legend or part-timer coming in, it's just the point to embarrass the current talent. It's just, for me, it's just the same shit, different day aspect of it. I mean, I'm always happy to see Stone Cold. That's great, but at least you could do something with your talent that you did with your other talent way back in the day. But I don't know, just saying, oh wow, 316 days, then someone's going to interrupt, blah blah blah. It's just lather, rinse, repeat. So that's the way I see it with it.
Yeah, and I make a point of the morning after Raw and SmackDown's done. I go and have a look on WWE's YouTube page, purely because, at that time of the morning, when I say I'm not feeling particularly clever, I've just woken up. And Shoma, Stone Cold Steve Austin, the real founder of Cold Stone Ice Cream. Shut up, Raph! I was gonna say, Oh, I've lost my train of thought now. Uh, no, I'm drawing a blank now. Raiden, where was I at before Inshoma decided to throw me off?
Something about like after what I said about Lazarus Repeat.
Yeah. Uh. Yeah. It is. Basically just a means of him. Him getting people over now because, well, they tried doing the whole co-general manager thing with Eric Bischoff back in the day. It just feels so surreal knowing that's nearly 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
And the funniest
I
thing...
mean, it made for good comedy, but I
Hmm.
think for more content-wise, it just wasn't enough. Especially when SmackDown was
Yeah.
kicking their ass every single week.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, he was more over than most of the main event talent. I mean, well, you have Austin and Triple H in the same ring at the same time. Stone Cold's always going to be over.
Uh-huh.
Uh, whereas, like I say, I wake up first thing in the morning, and I want something, not so clever to ease me into the morning. I'm like, okay, I'll check out clips from Raw. I see some of the clips that happen on Raw, and I'm like, can I go back to sleep? This is dumb. This is not like, half awake dumb. This is like, can I go back to sleep so that I, didn't have to put up with this? Um, and from what you tell me, SmackDown's not that much better at the moment. Because I go looking on a Saturday morning, I'm like, okay, this is kind of okay. This, that. But the stuff that they're doing with Nakamura, Sami Zayn, and
Nakamura.
Cesaro.
Yeah, that. Oof. Every time I see Sammy just getting thrown in the wayside, it hurts because he could have been like the next Daniel Bryan, the next person to get over, and he just because he mentioned AEW, he gets punished. I mean, okay, I get it. Don't mention your competition, blah blah blah. But damn, you could. I mean, you could do more, but it's just, yeah. And overall, SmackDown is not looking. It's at the point just unwatchable these days. I mean, for me, and don't get it twisted. It's not because of the talent. I mean, they're all doing their best. It's just the direction of it, especially on Fox. And Lord knows Fox is not happy with what they're doing.
I think about the only thing that I found entertaining and I suppose somewhat rewarding is the announcement that the NWO is finally going into the Hall of Fame. But I noticed a bit of a glaring omission. Where was Hogan?
Mm.
I mean,
shoot. I mean, if Hogan was there, I mean, they could have at least got a little more big ratings, especially when Goldberg came as the Universal Champion. But I don't know. Sometimes when you have a somewhat goodish thing when someone comes back, it's good, but it's like it's not really benefiting the talent. It's just benefiting the show.
yeah, and this is going to be a point where within one night the three members of the NWO that were there in Hall, Nash, and X-Pac, all three of them are going to tie with Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair as two-time Hall of Famers, because Nash is a Hall of Famer. Hall went in originally as Razor Ramon, but the character did deserve to go in there. And like I say, Kevin Nash is a Hall of Famer, and X-Pac was, a Hall of Famer, by going in with DX. So, but yeah, I was really surprised that Hogan wasn't there because it may have been Scott Hall and Kevin Nash that went over to WCW originally and Hogan joined later. It was those three where the NWO was at its most powerful and most dangerous until it got a bit boring when everybody joined the NWO to the point where it was, okay, are you NWO Nitro or WCW Nitro? That's when it's too big.
Yeah.
And we did... Go on.
Yeah, I've been really watching a lot of wrestling with regret and watching a lot of old WCW pay-per-views. Like, yeah, it's like half of it, especially, is just all interference. It's just people just showing up when they want to show up. It's just there.
Yeah. And, they had missed opportunities in the past to do DX versus NWO, and for WrestleMania 31, they did finally have it, but about 20 years too late. Cause
I don't like going back to that match.
And as Steve the Vince Wilton pointed out after the match, Hogan was like, revving up, to go ahead of Sting. I didn't notice this at that time, but when he said you can actually hear Triple H say to Hogan, back up, I made a point of going back to watch that, and I'm like, well, shit. That caught me off guard. Mania 31 as a pay-per-view, I thought it was a huge improvement over Mania 30, because Mania 30, I'd say the only major highlights was seeing Rock, Austin, and Hogan at the start of the pay-per-view, then Taker and Brock, and then Daniel Bryan finally getting his moment. But the rest of that pay-per-view was, I'm just going to be frank, it was throwaway.
Oh, yeah, I was just about to mention that.
I think they were just sort of hoping just to be like, yeah, it's Mania 30. It's just like, if that's your whole game plan, no pun intended, trips, if that's your whole, go-to, then it's not really going to set yourself up for a memorable pay-per-view. I tend to find the more memorable ones are the ones that don't really have that much hype compared to other events from the past, and where they just actually have a solid plan going throughout the night. I think the ones that had the most solid plans, probably 17, 18, and 19, because they didn't really have a theme about it. It's just like, look, you're there to, just to go to WrestleMania, to put on a show of a lifetime, which is what people are there for. And I felt like with 18, because that was the last one before the brand split happened, some things about that I'd like to forget. And it was the last WrestleMania ever to see the European and Hardcore titles. And it was that very cringe and embarrassing moment of Christian throwing a temper tantrum after losing to DDP. I wonder, if he, whenever he sees that, he just sort of, grimaces a little and thinks, that's embarrassing. And also, that was back when he had long hair. It looks weird when you go back to the archive footage where, he had, hair almost as long as Edge's. And then whenever you see him now, he's just got like this sort of, these sort of Backstreet Boys haircuts. It's just like, it's kind of weird. Also, I will, especially for Christian, sorely underrated and underappreciated as a competitor.
Yeah.
For me, he deserved at least one more world title reign, and by extension, one that lasts at least a good 4 months, because what happened after Extreme Rules 2011 that was disgraceful.
Mm-hmm.
And alright, his second reign, it lasted an actual month. I'm like, okay, you're giving him the belt for a month, but I'm of the mind that looks at things from a logical perspective and says, considering all that he has done for WWE, with the TLC matches, ladder matches of any other kind, and being part of the germ that put the idea into McMahon's head for Taboo Tuesday, which that thing really needs to come back. Of all these extreme matches and what he did for the tag team division, I felt he deserved more and he deserved better for that hit, for those 2 world title reigns, because when he won against Del Rio in that open ladder match, which, for context, if Del Rio had won, he would have taken the world title to Raw. But when Christian finally got it, whether you were a Christian fan or not, the moment you saw him take the belt down from the top and heard his music go off, you just thought, you know what? He deserved this one, because he fought so hard just to get to that position, and then it's taken away from him within the space of a few days. I just looked and thought, I know it's predetermined and whatnot, but he deserved better. And, the times I've spoken to L-Man on occasion about this, he's still salty about that to this day. I mean, he's learned to let it go, but, he's probably one of the best Christian fans out there. And, even he felt like, that was a disgrace what they did to him. It just annoys me that he never got another shot just to try and get himself back in.
Yeah.
Because his last ever match was to become number 1 contender for the Intercontinental title 2 weeks before WrestleMania 30 on Raw. And because he got another concussion, they said, nope, that's it, you're done, you're retired. And he never got back into the game. And, Edge is allowed to make a comeback. I don't understand why Christian wouldn't be allowed to come back in, because I felt like he had more to give, and I felt he was owed one. I know, superstars are not entitled to anything just like that, but I think for all that he's done, he deserved something that was more befitting.
Yeah.
Steven says, learn when to stop. That's what I say, but I get where you're coming from, Steve, but at the same time, if you saw the type of competitor that this guy was, he was somebody that bled, sweat, and gave tears for the business, and, he was always passed up because, well, I think McMahon was still bitter that he went over to TNA, but it's just like, well, you didn't give him the opportunities that he was looking for. So he went elsewhere to go get them, and he actually found himself to be a multiple-time world champion over in the Impact Zone.
Mm-hmm. 2-time NWA world champion, to be exact.
Yep. Because didn't he defend the title against Abyss at Lockdown?
Yes, 06.
Yeah, I remember one of my buddies, Pete, getting the DVD for that, and I'm looking for this DVD, and I'm like, this is WWE's competition. Adoni would probably go, yeah, sadly.
Yeah. I'm just happy I called him out on it because like, despite it being good, you still want to talk your mess. Like let it go already.
This is Oni we're talking about here.
I know, but it gets annoying.
Yeah. Dan says, I hope SKL will be part of my Sunday afternoons for another 100 episodes. Hey, dude. If we can get to 100 episodes, I don't see any reason why we can't get to 200. Because, I haven't checked my lottery results yet. And
I know.
let's just say, while I will never announce on the air that, that if I have one, let's just say I will continue to do SKL simply because it's something to look forward to. And every 2 weeks is a chance for me to showcase new material, what I do with regards to movie reviews, because as I said on my Twitter yesterday morning, it feels strange waking up on a Saturday now knowing that I haven't got any new Thunderbirds Are Go episodes to review anymore, because I think ITV have made it abundantly clear season 3 was it. So and I forget who might have been my grandmother who said this to me when I was going from junior school to high school back in the day. When one door closes, another one opens up. So
most definitely.
So, Thunderbirds is done. As much as I don't want to admit it, that is what it is, and I'm just pouring more time and energy into doing my movie reviews. And I think the things I find that I enjoy doing with these things, aside from the fact that it's celebrating things that make me very happy and gives me an excuse to escape reality for a few hours. I like doing these sort of things whereby whenever I do the anniversary specials, they have a slight, when I say cinematic feel, I'm referring to, whenever I do the intros, because, if you're going to be celebrating something like this, like with the 25th anniversary of Power Rangers, for example, I wanted to do something that played on the fact, well, they're going deep into outer space, and and because it's been quarter of a century since that movie came out, I wanted to do something for it that that would do it justice. And I think Raiden kind of got it when the text simply came up as "May the power protect you," and all I can hear at the other end is "No, no, 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 no! Oh my gosh!" And of course,
that was surprising.
And of course, he sees the helmets and he's just like, "Holy crap! He's actually reviewing this." So, like I say, I like to do little things that you don't know necessarily where it's going to begin with. I mean, alright, when I did the intro to the Jurassic Park review, the fact that you hear the Jurassic Park theme, it's just like, okay, I know where he's going with this. Dan says, hopefully Thunderbirds won't come back again as an unfunny chibi reboot, like how certain cartoons had unfortunately returned. Yeah, we're not talking about Thundercats Roar. Yeah.
I saw snippets of that. I'm like, oh, you have got to be kidding me.
Yeah. Aaron Izzard says, at least ITV gave Thunderbirds Are Go a decent send-off, not like how the BBC handles its popular shows. We don't talk about the BBC on here unless we're going to be mocking them. Because, well, I would imagine it's a similar thing for you in the States, Raider, because the way we talk about the BBC over here is probably the way that you would probably look at whenever CNN come out with something. You think, oh god, this fail again.
Yeah, I tend to avoid it, especially when it comes to wrestling.
That does actually remind me on something. Bear with me 1 second. I wonder if I've actually still got this within my video manager. Alright, let's see. Do I still have this? Not the... No, not the... What am I thinking? Not where we've done the panels. This is when my brother and I used to do reaction and reviews for pay-per-views. I'm just wondering if I've still got this one in particular.
Oh yeah, I definitely remember you guys doing that back in the day.
Let's see. Survivor Series Supplemental. Thank you, Undertaker. No, that ain't it. Let me see. No, the couch vlogs. I haven't done those in a while. Right. It might be on the reaction and review channel. Give me a moment. Alright. Okay. I like how I go to, go say reaction and review UK and I get all these other ones pop up. It's like, no, this is not me and my brother's channel. Okay, this is... Alright, hang on. Oh, for crying out loud, it should not be this difficult just to try and find these things. Right, hang on. Right, I've got some of his stuff. No, that's not it. Oh, I think I know how to get around this because I did actually leave the link. Hang on. Wait. No. Oh, jeez Louise. I'm looking at the runtime from episode 11 of Sunday Night Live. 7 hours and 21 minutes. Ugh.
Woo!
I knew we ran long, but... Come on now, that's bad.
That's crazy.
I mean... Hang on.
I mean, I remember one time, I think, when I was in when I was just starting to show up in SKL, I was like, I think I was so passed out I missed the ending, and it's like, oh, you guys were talking about stuff, and I was dead tired.
Yeah. Let's see. Hang on. Right, hang on. Hang on, no, that's not it. Shouldn't have to go this nuts just to try and... Oh! Whew! Yeah, it's just because he doesn't really have a lot of his reaction and review stuff up now, I decided to actually compile it onto a channel, as he often says, even though I've retired, I'm not going to delete my channel because there may be some people that actually, still find some entertainment. Sean Retro's just said we shouldn't let the young ones give words about the BBC. Oh, good lord. For context, the Young Ones was an even more animated and more uncouth mouth of than that of Bottom. Yeah, they damn. They liked to go places with that. Let me see. Oh yeah. Oh, this is gonna be good for a laugh. Give me a sec. Wait. Yeah, just stay at 0, damn it. Don't ask why the name Jeffrey Butler is there as my brother's nickname for Ezekiel Jackson.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Oh dear. Like in the description, MJ and myself enjoy another round of We Were Entertaining.
Oh.
Yeah. Be nice to see, how well this one's aged. Oh dear. Stevie says, Vivian, eat the telly. No, don't do that. You can actually still watch DVDs via TV. Alright, you at 0?
Hold on, let me just find the video. Oh boy. Okay. Okay, I'm ready.
Hang on. I didn't say for YouTube to go that quick. In 3, 2, 1, play. Oh, his old theme.
I definitely remember this.
So he builds them a treehouse and it looks all wrong. These adverts are getting worse, man. This is the first time we've watched TV in ages, by the way. Oh, hey! How's it going? Random, MJ. So what are we doing here?
We are watching WWE Survivor Series 2013.
Now, I know what you're going to say. You guys are obviously not wrestling fans anymore, so why are you watching this? Well, it's Sunday. What else am I going to do? Besides,
I bought the event.
And the TV's in the room, so... Yeah, it might be good for a laugh. You never know. That was sarcasm, by the way.
Oh.
So, yeah, it's freezing cold outside. It's approaching November, even though you can't really tell. Really.
Approaching December, dude. We're in November.
Oh, yeah.
Derp.
Well, at least what I said was more coherent than...
Guess that'll see. Was it a real thing, huh?
True.
So anyway, WWE Summer... I'm not with it today. Survivor Series 2013.
Oh, jeez.
Oh! I see a problem with this already.
We have just started the show, and
This
Pinocchio
legit
is going to
summer?
talk.
It looks like we're getting started in a big way at Survivor Series.
I don't know what's gotten bigger, her tits or his nose.
Ow! Oh no. It's the SSSSS squad!
Scratch! Ground! You are the very
Every time I hear Michael Cole, I'm Wes. I don't watch SmackDown anymore.
Such a smash squad. Okay, I've argued this.
Oh no!
I've called you all together because you're the worst assortment of low-life mercenaries I ever made. For me, you're malicious. You're my kind of rotten. One troublemaking Mexican has made me tear
Look at me.
from my beautiful head. You took the words right out of my mouth. I hate that Alberto Del Rio. Sorry, it's my impression of Zeb culture there. You were saying?
None of you would know it.
I was just like, what the hell?
He's on the opposite team.
Oh my.
The reason he was out for so long was
Isn't it true Cody's gay?
room attacked by the Shield earlier
He's
this
married to a hot chick.
Rumor debunked. Rumor debunked.
She is.
Myth busted.
2013 is
Okay, this was legit an
Oh,
match,
yeah,
though. I
yeah.
can't
Thanks
lie.
for that taint shot there. Thank you.
fired in WWE. It wasn't
Yeah, that's really what I wanted to see this morning.
Well, let's put it this way. Your choice is last year's of a taint shot of Albert or Cody.
I like how Zeb's just watching it. That's exactly what me and the mustache want to see. That is the kind of mustache. Oh, God damn it.
Oh no.
no numbers here for the Shield. On that accord, a cheap shot.
Good one, Darth Maul. Turn around.
Darth Dust.
So they calling him.
Ooh. Oh, how many of you roughhousing?
Jimmy and Jay have a history with the Usos. The real Americans paying for it. The Usos are all over the place.
Wait. Did Michael Cole just say Jimmy and Jay have an issue with the Usos? They are the Usos, you butcher! Ugh.
Right, what do we got?
We were that bored.
Okay, we've got AJ, Oksana, Del Rio, Andre, Cesaro, Batista, Big E, Big John Studd, Big Show. Got two versions of Big Show. Bret Hart, Bree. Will I say it? Yeah, go on. Brock Lesnar! Brodus, Bruno Sammartino. Bo Jericho's, Christian Punk, Rhodes, who's Kurt Hennig? Mr. Perfect. Oh, he was part of NWO? Huh? He's part of NWO apparently. It says NWO on it. Sandow, Bryan, Young. Oh, he's the gay guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Respect, by the way. Carlton, Darren Young, Dean Ambrose, Diesel, Dolph, Drew, the American Dream. Oh, Eddie Guerrero's in this game. Yes! Goldberg, Edge, Heath, both Hulk Hogan's. To quote Oni here, Jake the Snake, JBL, Jinder Mahal, Retro Cena, Modern Cena. Okay, Retro Cena and Modern Cena. What the fuck is the difference? One has a military hat and the other one doesn't. That's the difference right there. One salutes and the other one goes. Sorry. One salutes and the other one goes. That is the main fucking difference right there. And all the other difference, of course, one had a wife. I am an evil prick. Have you noticed that? Justin Gabriel, Caitlyn, I miss her. Modern Kane, Retro Kane, NWO, Nash.
Terrence Quad.
This guy. Nash Terrence Quad. Achievement unlocked.
The achievement is called Just Like in Real Life.
No, the achievement's called You Saw It Come. Obligate insert joke here. Kevin Nash, The Outsiders, King Kong.
Terrence Quad.
King Kong Bundy, Layla. Okay, Layla. Okay, look at the picture of Layla and Leah. Did it look as if someone's farted?
A little bit.
Layla, Leah, Mark Henry, Mick Foley, Mr. McMahon, Natalia, Nikki, Truth, Orton. Macho Man. Ooh, yeah. Dig it. NWO, regular. Chico. Rey Mysterio. Retro.
Sober.
Ravishing Rick Rude, Alimony. Ricky Steamboat, Roman Reigns, Goldberg, Santino, Bo Scott Hall, Diner, Steve Rollins.
Who's fat?
Sergeant Slaughter, Shawn Michaels on Retro, Sheamus, Bocce, Stephanie, Dave, I'm done. Summer Rae, Sinks, whoever that is. SYXX.
Oh, that's X-Pac in TNA. No,
Ted
WCW.
DiBiase, Albert, the Giant, the Great Khali.
That's Big Show again.
I used to name the WCW line. They might as well call them that. Great Khali, Miz, and there's more. The Rock, Retro Rock, Titus O'Neil, Triple H Retro, Ultimate Warrior, Undertaker, American Badass, Retro Taker, Virgil, Wade Barrett, Yokozuna, and some faggot.
Zack Ryder. Oh no.
How long's it been so far?
36 minutes.
I think we should have a little celebration. Raise your glass. Everyone, a toast, raise your glass. It's been half an hour, and they haven't talked about the WWE app.
I don't think so.
Fucking jinx it.
Whoops.
Kane!
Oh shit.
Finally seeing it up close, I realised, what the hell is that?
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. After last week,
Oh, good lord.
He looks so pathetic.
One of the
like
many reasons
that.
I don't go back to
demanded
2013.
respect, and I demanded confidence in me as the
Why
face
has
of this
Kane
company.
got hair?
I want to see how we're doing with that. Are we all on the same page still, or has anyone changed their mind?
Hi, Brandy.
It's Randy Blandy! Oh no. It's Curtis, please don't speak, Axel.
Just Curtis Hennig.
Introducing first.
No, you're thinking of his father.
From Minneapolis, Minnesota, weighing in at 228 pounds, Curtis Axel.
Don't get me wrong. Fine, Cactus Cat's Cat wrestler. But shit on the microphone.
Isn't that really Mike McGillicuddy?
Yeah.
So why did he change his name to Curtis Axel?
Right, Curtis for his dad's first day, Kurt Hennig, and Kurt the Axe Hennig because of his grandfather.
Oh. Biggie Langston, why steroids are bad for you. Ooh. See, I look at him, this is pretty much what Jeffrey would look like if he had steroids.
Jeffrey Butler!
The shame of a nation.
Oh no.
Well, these are bad guys now.
No, apparently they're the faces, except even Marie.
Did I ask a question?
Sure.
So why is Kate...
Who is Jeffrey Butler?
She's not.
Oh.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
Oh, okay.
Oh my
Okay,
goodness,
okay.
John,
I get it.
Justice.
Wait. JoJo's competing.
I can kind of see it.
Is that good?
Yeah. This will be her first match. She's actually the youngest out of them.
Oh,
At
good
19.
lord. I forgot. That's when Total Divas was
Oh,
a thing.
even you couldn't
Well,
get
when
this
it first
wrong,
started.
Right? Eva Marie had the job of announcing 3MB to the ring.
Yeah.
She gets Heath Slater right. Forgets Drew McIntyre, but
And now
pronounces
has
Jinder
Scott
as
with Bray
Ginger.
Wyatt.
Victorious.
No.
This picture, I like it.
Another. Oh yeah, his reaction. Oh. Cena now has reason to be a little bit more hated.
Why?
Nikki moved her stuff into Cena's house.
Oh yeah.
26 boxes of them.
Uh-huh.
And upon that, Cena gives her a contract signed saying, the moment that this relationship terminates, you have to move all of your stuff off my property within 24 hours.
What a douchebag.
Now, if he had said 24 days, you'd think, okay, that's reasonable, but 24 hours? It's like...
That's kind of prickish.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, It's like, you know what my response to that would be?
What?
What do you mean if this relationship doesn't work? Yeah?
Exactly.
Like, what do you mean if it doesn't work?
Exactly.
What a douchebag!
Oh no.
Oh, sweet Jesus, he's going to talk.
What a mind reader.
I see the way you guys are looking at me, like you're gonna come down and do something. But you know what you're gonna do? Nothing. Because you're cowards, just like everybody in this second-rate arena.
You know what I prefer? I prefer the days when he just didn't fucking talk, he had 2-second matches and he went back home.
Each and every one of you.
Take a drink.
I can intimidate.
There's a little running joke. Because I believe they keep using the phrase, each and every one of you so goddamn much that I made a drinking game out of it.
I am not a bully.
You admitted to being on SmackDown, you tool!
I'm Ryback. Ryback. That's the name on the marquee. So what I'm gonna do right
This is what Sloth from The Goonies is doing these days.
Oh!
anybody who wants to come out here and make amends for themselves.
You're thinking about it now, aren't you? Sloth! Bruh!
Grandchildren that they were beaten.
Come on, what would Chunk think of you doing this?
Better looking.
Sloth.
Oh, shut up and do the truffle shuffle!
My nuts.
Do the truffle shuffle!
Ugh.
If I had as a guy surrounded by pennies, if I had a penny every time Triple H said best for business. You know the one thing I love about modern WWE? Every time Botch is out there, you hear a Goldberg chant. That match has to happen one day.
Good lord, no.
Slaves and plebs, I present to you how to react to a Divas match. Are you still with us over there? Must have been too much for... Have a nice nap? You didn't miss anything important. You can tell out the two of us which is the night person, can't you?
This is not a dance party. This is a power slammers party.
Oh.
Not till after this match is over.
Flying saucer food delight!
Yeah, I never understood why they had Punk and Bryan versus the Wyatts.
Wait. So, the YMCA family have a problem with Daniel and Punk because the fans consider them the face of the WWE and they're not going after Randy Orton.
Very simple answer, Michael.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry about that. Had a call.
It's fine.
So what time? What time you're on?
Oh, right. I'm up to about 1640.
1640. Okay.
Well, place for it to freeze frame on.
All right, I'm there.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Resume.
Okay.
WWE fans, in his words, laid it all on the line against a spoiled brat in Randy Orton tonight.
He does like to hammer it up.
Really?
Well, not trying to be cliche or use any puns or anything, but this is the biggest match in this big man's
Later.
life. And you can call him a small brat.
That's enough of that.
The face of his company.
Yeah, I can't believe this is the main event.
Like this.
Yeah.
Well, down in WWE, they say Randy's heart grew 3 sizes that day.
What happened then? Well, where's he from?
St. Louis, Missouri.
What happened then? Well, in Missouri they say, Randy Orton grew a heart that day. No, let's go on better. And what happened then? Well, in Missouri they say, Randy Orton grew a pulse that day.
Ouch.
I am Randy I'm Blandy.
No.
I can see the look on your face in the camera there. Are you a Yoshi? Hells yeah!
Oh, God.
Who saw this coming? Who's that?
Triple H, Stephanie, and King. Distraction.
Kane looks... Right, that's the end. You want to... Oh, you stop this. Eat it. Right, that's the end of Survivor Series. Well, you might want to mute TV. I'll do it. Right. Oh, that works better. Right, do you want to go first, or... Because you were asleep for half of it, but...
For you?
The
Yeah.
Bobby Bryan tag match against the Wyatt family was marginally okay. I thought Big E Langston and Please Don't Speak Axel was moderately entertaining at best. Putting the classic Survivor Series match on first, morons. They should have kept it for later in the night. I'm going to be shot down for saying this, but the Divas Survivor Series match was the only decent thing on the card.
Yikes.
Big Show Orton, that match was far too short. Cena Del Rio went on longer than it needed to. Like I say, aside from the Divas Survivor Series match, this was the worst Survivor Series I've ever seen.
Well, you were asleep for half of it, then.
When I did see it, I just felt... there was
Year
no
prior was much
conviction,
better.
Nothing...
It just felt like too vanilla, or too...
I mean, yeah, two,
What's the word I'm looking for? It's just like,
Survivor
it
Series
felt like
matches.
you've already seen the show before.
Main event was
Like,
pretty good,
I
especially with the
admit,
debut
I
of the
was,
Shield,
as you can hear me
so...
doing it right now, I was just
I don't know, it's
writing
just like-
through half of the show.
Over the years, Survivor Series
I
has
just lost
gone a
interest.
little downhill.
I think for me, the problem I had was...
Well,
like I
except for
said, it just
2016,
felt
I thought
like,
that
yeah, I've
was
seen this
really
already.
decent.
I mean, it wasn't really breaking new ground. It was just the same old shit. And I don't think they're really learning anything, you know? I mean, would you say the show was salvageable at all, or...
I think they could have salvaged something, but they've made it about the Cena and Orton show again by Cena coming right in at the end, shoving the world title in Orton's face. I'm like, either he's simply saying, "Oh, I'm a better champion than you," or they're pushing forward with this idea that they want to refuse the titles back together.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the point of having two titles. I mean, I mean, I'm glad they keep wheeling the WCW title around. I like that. Yeah, I keep calling it that because that's what it is. But like, there's little to no point. There's no brand extension anymore.
No.
So why do you have two champions? I mean, the point of it was two brands, two champions. It made sense. But when you haven't got a brand extension anymore, why do you have two titles still? You know? No, I'm just saving something. But yeah, from what I saw of the show, because I was kind of in and out as well, wasn't that good. You know, it's just vanilla matches, and the Divas match, sadly, I have to kind of echo his words, was okay. I mean, it wasn't... Because usually Divas matches are piss breaks, but this one was, 3 out of 5 maybe, or 2.5 out of 5. That's the usual 0. But the saddest thing for me, the highlight of the night was seeing Johnny Ace again. That was the highlight of the night for me, just so I could resurrect that dead joke again. But yeah, it's just... I mean, Mysterio came back and lost. You had Fandango show up for no reason.
Other than for forced product placement again.
Yeah. And that was it. You know, it should have more Survivor Series matches.
Exactly.
I mean, that's kind of the point. It's called Survivor Series, you know. Just, that would have made me happy. But, well, if you had to grade it, what would you say?
3 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, that's, time's getting a bit cold, that's what I'm shivering for. I mean, yeah, I'd say a 3, maybe 3.5, 2.5 for me, 2.5. Sorry, I haven't got much to say. I mean, he's half awake, and I just don't really give a shit. But, you know, if I'm going to be honest with you, it was just, you know, if you've seen any pay-per-view this year, you've pretty much seen them all. It's that same kind of lackluster... It's kind of like... Tell you what, I'll put it this way. Close it out. It's like going to a fireworks show, or for you Americans, it'd be like a 4th of July. 4th of July? Try that again. I get on Michael Cole's case for fucking shit up. You go to a 4th of July, like, fireworks show, and rather than have, like, a full entourage of, like, things going off, you just get, like, one little sparkler and a guy farting, and that's pretty much WWE pay-per-view's excitement. Not sure how I phrased that, but we'll close it here. Until next time, he's been half awake, I've been unamused, and we'll see you all next time. Take care, and we'll see you all in the near future. Peace.
Damn, I misflipped that
This one's from
TV.
my buddy Smoke. But look! I've got a packet of chocolate hobnobs! What do you mean we?
We're saved.
What do you mean we? I'm alright, I fancy your chances much.
Oh, but Daddy, it's your old pal, Richie.
Exactly! Bugger off! That show will never get old.
I don't know what was going on, but I still found that amusing.
No, it's it's a skit from one Bottom episode where they were given a bet. They couldn't survive in a camping situation for a week.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing fine, Lids. We're doing just fine.
Missing you.
Aaron says, what the fuck? Did he just moon the camera? No. Aaron Izzo says, love the nod to Bottom at the end there. Alright, Steven's kind of hinting that you can only make like a brief appearance, so let's find a way to... Alright.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry, I've just ended up coming out of Liverpool Comic Con and I'm a bit of on a high buzz.
Fine.
Good in the hood.
Hang on. But kind of as a thing, I managed to meet Frank Welker and Peter Cullen.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Yeah, but although the coronavirus has been sort of a thing that's been lurking around the Comic-Con event, we were still able to do fist bumps with them whenever we managed to meet them and get signed stuff.
Nice.
And let me just find it. I've managed to get something which I think is going to be something I'm going to cherish until I die. And sorry, I'm just all flabbergasted from the whole event because
No, that's fine.
Nah, it's all good.
it's like an experience that you rarely get once in a lifetime.
Mm.
And there we go.
Yeah.
Hopefully you should be able to see it.
Oh, wow. Alright, just so people can see that. Wow.
Yeah, a friend of mine, Jade, she got the exact
Freaking
same thing.
awesome.
And my friend Jade, she's now asleep at the moment, but she's gave them a couple of ball sparks, which they weren't really expecting as gifts, and they loved them.
Nice.
And the panel that we went to, I think it was at 3:00, which I think is up on YouTube. They were just able to improv, and we were just in awe of them, because not only did they do the typical Transformer voices, but they went into a whole bunch of skits. Like, I think that one of them they did was the soundscape of a lake at night.
Alright.
Like, you had Frank Welker doing cricket chirps and Peter Cullen doing frogs croaking.
Nice.
I just thought I'd share that with you.
Nah, that's cool, man.
Very nice.
Is there any other topics?
Yeah, there's a few for this evening. Let's see. Oh yeah, I think most people will appreciate this one. Let's see. The Real Ghostbusters writer campaigns for a revival series. Jason Reitman is revisiting the original Ghostbusters movie with a new sequel this summer, and now the Real Ghostbusters writer J. Michael Straczynski is lobbying for the animated series to make a return. Based on the original movie from director Ivan Reitman, Jason's father, the animated series featured cartoon versions of all our favorite characters, airing on television between 1986 and 1991. The Real Ghostbusters was a big hit with fans of the franchise, and many remember the cartoon just as fondly as the original movies. Recently, it was revealed that Hasbro is relaunching the Real Ghostbusters action figures directly inspired by the original line of toys from Kenner in the 1980s. When the figures were revealed at Toy Fair in New York last month, both Jason and Ivan Reitman were on hand for the unveiling. Video from the event has since made its way online, catching the attention of Straczynski. Sensing an opportunity, Straczynski took to Twitter to plead his case to the Reitmans for bringing back the Real Ghostbusters in some way as well, with his amusing message. Hey, at Jason Reitman, saw the video of you and Ivan Reitman at the Hasbro relaunch of Real Ghostbusters toys. Wouldn't this be a great time to bring back the Real Ghostbusters, new animation, live action, puppets, hand shadows, semaphore, Hello? Is anyone there? Is this thing on? Straczynski's tweet might be partially tongue-in-cheek, but he does bring up a genuinely great point. If there was ever a time to revisit the real Ghostbusters, now is probably a greater time than ever. Nostalgia is in, and there seems to be a lot more excitement for Ghostbusters Afterlife. In part because it shares the original movie universe and will be bringing back fan-favorite characters like Peter Venkman, Ray Stantz, and Winston Zeddemore. Because the real Ghostbusters is animated, the beloved series would also theoretically be easier to revive than it was for the writers to develop a big screen sequel with Bill Murray and other high-paid Hollywood stars. In addition to working as a story editor for seasons 1 and 2 of the Ghostbusters cartoon, Straczynski personally wrote a variety of episodes for almost every season. His work on the show is just a small part of an amazing career in television, as Straczynski is also well known as the creator of several sci-fi shows like Babylon 5, its spin-off Crusade, and the post-apocalyptic series Jeremiah. He also co-created the popular Netflix series Sense8 with Lana and Lily Wachowski. The writer has also created and written many comic books, including a years-long run writing The Amazing Spider-Man.
Ooh.
Who knows if we'll ever see new episodes of the real Ghostbusters, but the Kenner-inspired action figures from Hasbro will be heading exclusively to Walmart this spring. As for Ghostbusters Afterlife, you can catch the Jason Reitman movie when it premieres in theaters on July 10, 2020. If the sequel finds great success at the box office, that can only help the chances of the real Ghostbusters returning as well. This comes to us from Ghostbusters News. As a fan of more of the first season of the real Ghostbusters, mainly because it wasn't dumbed down like season 2 was when it was Slimer and the real Ghostbusters, I would love to see that animated series return, simply because it's like they kind of said, it's just basically an extended universe of the original movie canon, and I liked what they did with the first season. They were able to tell these very dark stories, but be able to do it within the confines, of a weekly afternoon kids show. Because
Not to mention the voice cast.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you get the likes of Frank Welker, Maurice LaMarche, and at the time Lorenzo Music as Peter Venkman. That was something. Although when they did the second season, the only two that were kept on, because it was Arsenio Hall that voiced Winston Zeddemore in the first season, because season 2 they changed him over, which I thought was ridiculous. But in the second season, the only two surviving cast members, the only two cast members that were kept on was Frank Welker and Maurice LaMarche, because Peter Venkman was being voiced by someone else. Someone else was voicing Winston, but they brought in Cafe Sose as Janine Melnitz, because I think that was actually like the first voice acting job I heard her do. And of course, it wasn't until years later, after seeing Satam for so long, and then I hear her voicing Janine. I'm like, wait a minute, I know that voice. But the possibility of that series being brought back, because I know they've got the complete first season out on DVD. I know America's had all the other seasons brought out, but seeing that first season come out, where you would, like I say, have these, really well crafted stories, and also the soundtrack that they packed into it.
Not to mention the original villains they come up with.
Exactly.
I mean, the Bogeyman.
Yep. And their version of the Sandman as well, where Janine actually tricks her mind into dreaming that she's a Ghostbuster, which is the Sandman's undoing. Or then, the episode of Ghosts Are Us. And of course, there was the one with Adventures in Slime and Space, where they have to deal with a King Kong-sized Slimer, which is disturbing in its own right.
Thanks.
Yeah. Like I say, I'd love it if the animated series could come back. First and foremost, you need to get as many of the the original cast members back as you can. So if you can get Maurice LaMarche back as Egon, perfect. You can get Frank Welker back as Ray Stantz, perfect.
Definitely.
The guy who voiced Venkman towards the end, if you can get him back, that'd be great. Whether it would be continuing from where Extreme Ghostbusters left off, I wouldn't like to say, because that was a sequel series to the real Ghostbusters, but
I think in the end they had in Extreme Ghostbusters, they had the new and the old team come up to face the Bermuda Triangle, basically.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was where you actually saw the original four using the original equipment and not the stuff that Egon had been developing in his downtime and as a university teacher. Hello, Win.
Hello.
Hey, Wayne.
Navi, do not knock over the microphone.
Mother, I am going to make my announcement to the YouTube community.
If you want to have a say, dude, just do your meowing.
Ma 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 mow. Ma 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 mow. My mother will be giving me gushies for the next 10 years. Mow. Mow, and she thinks MJ's cute. I know, Navi, I know.
And just on the off chance, I've posted a link on YouTube of the Transformers panel with Peter and Frank, and I think in one section they end up doing a bit of a cat versus dog animal versus, which you can check out in your own time.
Sure.
Sounds good.
Sweet. Like I say, if they're able to bring back the real Ghostbusters, that'd be awesome. Because I felt like the way they left it with season 2, where they had dumbed it down after such a decent first season, it was a missed opportunity. But then again, as we just said, they had a decent successor series with Extreme Ghostbusters, so whether this is going to be like years later or if it's just going to be a straight up reboot, I wouldn't like to say, but I'm all interested if they decide to bring it back. Steve, your thoughts?
Well, I'd like to see it come back. The only question I have is, where will it fall on from? The end of the end of the second season of Real Ghostbusters, the end of Extreme Ghostbusters, or whether it'll be something entirely new based on Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Maybe a mixable?
Maybe. Wouldn't like to say.
But
Wouldn't like to say on that one.
I'd just like to keep an open mind about it. But if anything, Maurice LaMarche and Frank Welker, please get them back.
Yeah. Because, Maurice does a decent Egon. And in fact, he's the only Egon we've got now.
Oh.
I know.
Challenge will be who'll be able to succeed Lorenzo Music as Peter Venkman.
Well,
That's the $1 million question.
Well, if you recall, they actually did do that.
Oh yeah, that's right. Extreme Ghostbusters.
And also season 2 of Ghostbusters, because Bill Murray complained that Venkman sounded too much like Garfield, and then irony came to bite him years later. He ends up voicing Garfield.
Even makes a joke about it in his death scene in Zombieland. What is my only regret? Garfield.
Yeah. Then he shows up in Zombieland 2 for reasons unknown.
Well, to be
Just
fair,
a flesh
those
wound.
were pretty metaphysical.
Raiden, were you a fan of the series at the time, or did you never really come across the real Ghostbusters?
Honestly, I never watched the real Ghostbusters. I've heard about it, but I have watched a lot of Extreme Ghostbusters. Yeah, I definitely. So aside from that, I definitely, like I said, enjoy Extreme Ghostbusters a lot more. Even though I've seen a couple of episodes of real Ghostbusters, I thought they were cool, but I always preferred Extreme because I don't know, something about like a new team being mentored by one of the original members. I always liked that, and they were funnier, especially with the writing.
Hmm. What do you think, Wen?
I'm pretty intrigued, especially if they get the if they got the original creators on board for it. It should be good if they succeed.
Hmm.
And if they do a mix of both worlds, that would be kind of be even better because I loved this goofiness of Real Ghostbusters, but I also liked the goofiness and kind of the more serious moments in Extreme Ghostbusters. A lot of those ghosts look a lot more spooky. Not not to mention, I couldn't help but sympathize for uh Romano's character. I think it's Eduardo.
Oh yeah.
With the episode where their fears were being exploited. Poor bastard was so scared, literally, of death.
Yeah.
The one episode well, actually, the two episodes I remember quite vividly. One was Many Happy Returns celebrating Egon's 40th, and then, which was, brought in the original Ghostbuster team, and the other one was this one, there was a friend of the female member of Extreme.
Kylie?
Yeah, where she'd lost somebody at a young age, but it was actually like this fancy.
Grundle-esque?
I think so.
Yeah, that was the episode. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that was really creepy. And even when he sort of hears Egon's voice, because they're talking to him via the containment grid about how this one guy had been taken under this this spook's influence. That was creepy even then to watch. But then again, Extreme Ghostbusters was like a taking the tone of the first season, but they really went to a lot of darker places with it.
It probably also didn't help that their animation designer was Dwayne Capizzi, who worked on the Batman, Jackie Chan Adventures, and Transformers Prime.
And I think one of the artists also did work for Godzilla the series and the Men in Black animated series as well.
Yeah, I was about to mention Men in Black.
Yeah, I remember.
I knew that.
Wait, Dwayne Capizzi? Oh, he was one of the producers for the Batman.
Yeah, that's what I said. The Batman, Jackie Chan Adventures, and Transformers Prime.
Nice.
Excellent.
Anytime I hear somebody do it in that tone, I'm reminded of that Simpsons episode where Hollywood comes to Springfield and
with Mr. Burns trying to make a movie.
Excellent. I'm like, ugh, stop that. Ooh, this is ridiculous. I guess I'll have to play myself. And I'm like, oh no. That was actually one of their better episodes, has to be said. Because, as we've said before, that show is in such a steep decline now. It's just like, you guys are just not trying anymore.
Well, back then, they were just trying to write fun episodes. And when you try to keep up with the times and attempt to be relevant and stay relevant, kind of do the exact opposite. Just do what some companies do and just make an effort to make something you would enjoy. For example, some video game companies are a bit like this, but one game I'm looking forward to because they're just looking to write a really great game and gameplay looked amazing is the upcoming third Baldur's Gate. But that's also because I'm a huge D&D nerd.
Nothing wrong with that.
He's fine. He's fine.
And look at the Sonic movie. They just wanted to make a fun movie, and that's a huge success, making back its budget and then some.
Last time I checked, because I've been making a point of checking every other day, it's up to 281.8 million, which means it's now 18 million away from being a certified hit.
Yay!
And if it gets past, let's just say for the sake of discussion, it gets to 330 million, you know the sequel is guaranteed by that point. Because it's made back its budget, probably made back its marketing, and then some. Because to be fair with the marketing, they haven't really gone that overboard with it. They've just really relied on word of mouth. And somebody has been uploading clips onto YouTube, I think either via through Paramount Pictures Korea, or another country within that region, and they're all uploading like HD clips onto YT, and I'm like, careful. You want to help this movie along, not hinder it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm glad to see some of the clips that I really care about. This is one clip that showed up when this is actually kind of sweet, but also heartbreaking at the same time. Sonic's just gone to sleep, and Tom is looking at his bucket list, and one of the very few that's not crossed out, it just says, to make a real friend.
No.
This is the thing that we've been saying for a while. You know, we've seen Sonic over the last near 30 years with this cocky and confident bravado. Here, you know, he's still got the charisma that we're familiar with, but there's a lot more heart and emotion in this one movie than there have been from games in the last 10 years, because I think most people are collectively sick and tired of the narcissistic personality of Baldy McNosehair since 2010, because that's outlived its usefulness now. It might have been necessary.
Personally, Robotnik will always have a special place in my heart.
I just think, you know, you can have a situation where you can have the charisma, but at the same time, you can also have a character that's got heart and relatability with it, which, again, I went into this movie with low expectations, thinking, oh, it's just another video game movie, but I'm glad this is the movie that got it right. It was able to be plausible in reality, but at the same time, it felt like it was true to the games.
And it makes Sonic more human.
Yep.
Than we've ever seen him.
Well,
And can bring in old school fans that played the games growing up, and new school fans to the franchise in itself, be it the games or the cartoons. And there's nothing wrong with either.
and this may surprise you. Speed Me Up is actually a Wiz Khalifa song that my brother actually likes. I don't have any dislike towards Wiz Khalifa. I mean, I loved what he did for Fast and Furious 7. I thought that was the right song to send Paul Walker off on. But Speed Me Up, I kind of felt, like with, like with the Paul Walker tribute, this one had a lot of love and a lot of heart put into Speed Me Up, but in a much lighter and just a much more positive context, because I don't know too many people that haven't grown up with Sonic. And just like with the movie, you could tell from the lyrics to the backing musical percussions to the visuals used in the music video, you could tell the people that made this did this with a lot of love. Because
I mean,
go on, man.
with Wiz, he is a massive video game fan. So, and this isn't the first time he's done the Sonic Hedgehog type theme. Like one time he sampled the Green Hill Zone during his mixtape days.
Oh.
Also also used a Chrono Trigger beat, Scaleless theme. Also.
Yeah. If there's one of few rappers I can recommend as someone who doesn't listen to the genre often, I would say go with Wiz. And if you don't believe me, ask Cyber-Raiden here. He's a hip-hop connoisseur who'll lead you in the right direction. And, of course, a super expert in lo-fi.
You flatter me, Win. You flatter me.
It's true. And the Overlord approves.
Hooray!
Bow. And unsurprisingly, ever since the movie, people have done their own fan art of what certain characters are going to look like in the sequels down the line. People are already doing fan art of what Amy will look like for the next movie. I'm like, I think the next movie's just going to focus on Sonic and Tails and possibly Knuckles.
I know if the second movie will be made, I feel like he will be in probably mid or post credit. That's what I see. So far with the first movie, they established that Sonic and Robotnik are a thing, so might as well with multiple sequels just introduce the whole characters one by one. Second one with Tails, and then I don't know. Of course, Knuckles post mid credits, and maybe I don't know. Third sequel, we get his first ever challenge aside from Robotnik with Metal Sonic. Hopefully voiced by Jaleel White. I would love to hear that. Seriously.
But like I say, like we've said a few times, with regards to the movie, it's way too early to start bringing a multitude of characters in. If you're gonna bring Knuckles in, it's like I said, please do us all a solid. Stop it with Knuckles is an idiot theme. That's done. We've had enough of that. The joke has outlived its usefulness.
And to give credit where credit's due,
Sonic. Sonic Boom. Honestly, it shows he's aware, but I think when he plays with these dumb characters, it's more for laughs, not really a bold thing. But yeah, I think you gotta chill with the dumb stuff.
I was gonna say, and to give credit where credit's due in Sonic Forces. I was playing it the other day because it's free on PlayStation Store, so I'm all, okay, I'm not wasting my money on anything, so I might as well give this game a try and finally see if it's to my taste. I'm enjoying it okay. Only complaint so far is that it's short. Yep. But they didn't put in that stereotype with Knuckles and Forces. He was actually a pretty level-headed leader.
Yeah.
Quick question, Win. What
Yeah.
character did you design on the character creation thing?
I made an orange cat.
Fair enough.
I made Navi because I didn't know what kind of build to try to make my own version of Ellie Acorn, and there weren't really many options to make an ideal Blaze.
Hmm.
Because Blaze and Sally Acorn and Bunny are my favorite ladies in the franchise.
Fair enough.
Mind you, speaking of Sal, I was watching the He-Man fan documentary film, The Power of Grayskull, the other day, and there was this one particular art style of Tila that it froze on that I said, okay, I need to send this over to my buddy Art of Matthew on DeviantArt because he's a huge Sally Acorn and Star Wars enthusiast. I don't want to say fanatic because that can get taken the wrong way, and mainly because I said that would look good as fan art if you're able to do the two. And I think his words were some of the lines of "Please stop putting ideas into my head." I liked it, but I mean, it's as we said. Also, I don't think we're ever going to see the Satam cast in the movies as much as I would like to see that happen. I have to be realistic. The only way you're ever likely to see Sally Acorn in A movies if they gave Kathy Sose like a quick cameo like they did with Gary Chalk, or I don't know, to have like a something as unsuspecting like try Sally, try Sally's buttercups from Acorn Desserts or something like that. Just something where people think, okay, I saw what you did there. Sean says I would love to see them in the IDW comics. Word is going on the wire is that they're going to use the Chaos Emeralds to cure the Zombot plague, which will in turn free Sonic of his virus and somehow open up a portal that'll bring the Freedom Fighters in. How that is going to work, I don't know.
Just sounds like a Deus Ex Machina to me.
Yep. Oh.
Hey, if it gives us the Freedom Fighters, I will trust their judgment.
I'm glad you brought that up. Hang on. How to put this? Mr. Flynn has more and more and more explaining to do.
Oh no, not again.
You know those
Who?
Ian Flynn, the one who's currently writing the Sonic comics. One video that was put in 2 seasons ago where
Episode 40, I believe.
Well, damn.
I remember.
He said there's like mandates from Sega that Sonic is not allowed to have this, that. Well, somebody actually asked Aaron Weber and a few others of Sonic Team and Sega, they said, well, we don't know what he's talking about. We don't have these mandates in place. Now, all of a sudden, people are looking at Ian Flynn on Twitter and saying, no mandates, huh? You, sir, have some explaining to do.
Or to reference a very famous Vine, why you always lying?
Yeah.
Oh my god, quit fucking lying!
Oh, what's that smell? Oh, it's Ian Flynn's BS.
Somebody open a window.
Ugh. The only thing is, this particular video is about 48 minutes long. It's up to you.
Well, it's your call either way. I have earbuds in.
Same with me.
All right.
I have headphones, so I'm good.
Okay.
I think after the video, I'll probably have to head off because got a lot of traveling to do to get back home.
Not a problem, dude. Not a problem.
Glad you got to enjoy your convention.
Well, once in a lifetime opportunity, you got to make the most out of it when you can.
Bit of a rough day.
Yep.
Let's see. Oh yeah, it would help if I posted it.
All right. Well, I'm at 0-0.
Same.
Yep. I'm ready.
Just waiting on Raiden.
I'm not gonna lie.
I'm ready.
That thumbnail is nightmare fuel.
3, 2, 1, play.
So this has been a bit of a rough decade for Sonic the Hedgehog. We've had Sonic
Understatement.
Boom: Rise of Lyric, the Archie series was cancelled, and the fan base was more divided than I think it ever has been. That's not to say nothing good happened. I mean, we did get Sonic Mania this decade, and we even got Sonic Forces, which was a step in the right direction for the series. And that Sonic Boom TV show was certainly well received by fans and critics, so it's not all been bad, but a lot of bad things have happened this decade, and a lot of blame has been pushed towards Sega, Iizuka, and Penders, but I don't think putting the blame on them single-handedly...
Well, you know what they say about
necessarily
swings and
applies
roundabouts.
this idea.
Yep.
Especially since two of these parties have had very little negative impact. All Ken Penders did was just cause his characters to not appear, and the fact that we'll never get a Sonic Chronicles sequel really doesn't faze most people, I would think. And Iizuka was responsible for helping out on Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and much more games that people really seem to like, as opposed to people dislike. I mean, he even had a hand in Forces and allowed Mania to continue development. And Sega are just the ones making the financial decisions. So where do I think much of this crap occurred? Well, I think a lot of it has to do with Ian Flynn's influence more than anything else. And yes, I did say Ian Flynn right there. You know, the wonderful angel that everyone loves so much in this fandom. I think he's probably had more of a negative impact in the series than anything else. So I'm going to go through all the history of where this started, and then show you why Ian
I think
Flynn
Navi knew
irreparably
before he
damaged
even
the
mentioned
Sonic
his name.
franchise and its fan base. Because there is a lot to
I'm
cover
confused.
in this
Is this the
situation.
person a lot of people don't
Now,
like?
some of the first recorded instances I can see of Ian ever coming onto the scene was
Okay.
a couple of letters he wrote to Archie. Basically, he's detailing what he thinks about each issue, going into extreme details. It's literally just a complaint piece with him acting like a know-it-all, but he's also done this little comic. I'm not really certain why he did this comic. It's pretty much just Sonic and Tails Go, but according to someone on Dylan Thomas's server, this was apparently written and made by Ian Flynn. He also did a Teletubby Sonic the Hedgehog crossover. No, I'm not joking.
Huh?
What?
Famously,
What?
or rather infamously, he created
Oh.
a fan comic known as Other M.
Dear
No,
God.
not Metroid Other M, just Other M. This is
And he got the job
is
of head
so
writer.
terrible
How?
that I was screaming
What?
my fucking lungs out. And that's not an exaggeration. It might even be worse than Sonic
Yeesh,
2.
I thought my
And that
artwork
isn't
was
an
bad.
exaggeration. Furthermore, I noticed that a lot of problems that Ian Flynn tends to have also start to appear in this comic, such as the random shock value, characters acting out of character to suit the story needs, a nonsensical plot, and, according to someone who used to work on Other M, tyrant rapist Knuckles. although later became
What?
Certain Rapist Shadow, but that's
What?
beside the point. So what bearing on the story does this have?
What?
Absolutely nothing. There's no reason for it, it's just there for the sake of being shocking. There also happens to be a page in issue 21 where Sally gets her head blown off. There's not really any context to it, she just gets her head blown off, and then Amy kisses Sonic. Yes, this actually does happen.
Excuse me?
Why is that? I have no idea.
No.
It's just there.
No.
But please keep it in your
No.
head for right now, because
No.
it will become important
No.
much later. And worst of all, the dialogue and storylines just drag out for far too long. Why is this? I have absolutely no idea. But going into Archie, it doesn't stop.
Oh no.
Now, Ian got into
Oh,
Archie
no.
by writing, in his words, a bunch of unsolicited proposals. However, you're not supposed to do that. At least that's not how you're professionally supposed to do something like that. And every single time these would fail, he would pester the writers, he would pester artists and say, hey, could you guys give me a job at Archie, please? I'm begging you, please give me a job at Archie. And usually
So
he'd
let me
get
get this
turned down.
straight.
He
The
was
reason he
only
got the
ever
job
brought
was by
on
pure
because of a
begging.
change in editors.
Sounds like
And some
it.
might say Ilya Baker, but I don't know.
Sounds to me more a bit like he trolled everyone until he
Nor am I going to discuss it here.
got the job.
Now, interestingly enough, Ian didn't go through all these hoops to become a writer just because he was this big super fan. That wasn't really the case. According to someone who used to work with Flynn, his entire point in getting into the comic was to remove any elements from the American continuity. This became very apparent since a lot
What a
of
bastard.
You
characters that were
utter
exclusive
ass.
to Archie were dying off, all under Ian Flynn's pen.
If
Most
I remember
notably, Sally
correctly,
Acorn died a couple of
This
times.
is the same guy that said such and
Or
such
characters
about a
returned evil,
beloved
out of
female
absolutely
character,
nowhere.
love interest that got
Sales
a
around this time
certain
also began to
adorable
fluctuate
one,
heavily,
very,
with them
very,
dropping the
very
moment Ian
heated.
Flynn gets
Yep.
onto the book. In spite of wonky sales, however,
Ah, of
the book
course.
did manage to garner a fan base big enough to keep the comic book going. Ian Flynn even began using his own forums as a means to communicate with his friends, along with DeviantArt.
Oh no.
However,
This
things
can't
would
end well.
begin to change.
Would you be able to tell us exactly what happened when you guys had to reboot the comic and why John Gray said that you needed to fight to keep the Freedom Fighters in the new continuity?
I don't know how many specifics I can get into because, you know, here's something that folks don't seem to understand. I think we're going to be coming back to that with later questions. Is there is private talk between businesses that remains private because it's business talk. With the reboot, there were a lot of circumstances, and my ultimate goal was to keep the feel of the old style of stories while doing something that was more faithful to the games. Because ultimately, that's where I was taking the book anyway,
Right.
and this was just the fast forward button. The issue with the Freedom Fighters is that they are from
Business.
an old, defunct
Numbers.
spin-off
Is it
from the
working?
franchise. They're not really considered
Yay!
high value properties, I guess, in terms
Excuse
of the
me?
overall franchise. Sega wants anything representing their product.
I don't even know the
to
Freedom
be
Fighters and that. I don't even
clearly
know about the Freedom
representative
Fighters
of
and
that
I
product.
heard about their
And
how
if stuff
beloved they
No.
are.
that diverges from that
No.
is
And hello.
that said, they have given
Oh,
us an
God.
extreme
I swear this dude.
large amount.
It just
of
sounds like this
creative
dude loves to hear
license
himself.
for the series, even post reboot.
God
So,
damn, no wonder
After the
Tom fans don't like
reboot,
this dude.
Flynn would push the fast forward button and jump straight to the reboot, where the universe is more like the games. Sega also supposedly put in mandates to make sure nothing like this ever happened again. These mandates include, but are not limited to,
A change that big cannot be
What
done in a
the
big
fuck
rush.
kind of
Family
bullshit
members.
rules is this?
They are also not permitted to be romantically
Excuse
involved
me?
with anyone else. However, Amy is
Sonic
only allowed to
Can't
like
cry.
Sonic.
What kind of
Characters
what?
can't change
What do you mean
outfits.
Sega
Alias
characters
is not a
can't
permitted
have
term.
family members?
Archie
Uncle
characters can't
Chuck
appear
was
anywhere
super
else.
loved.
Yep.
Pender's
Hmm.
characters and
Anyone but
concepts
Sonic-
cannot be mentioned. Sonic must always win. He is also not permitted to
Wow,
cry.
what the hell?
And the Sega cast cannot develop unless permitted.
What?
Needless to say, fans weren't very happy about the new changes. And so the reboot failed. Combine this with an arc that lasted for over 3 years, interest in the comics began to wane further and further and further. There wasn't much keeping people reading by that point in time, so Archie pulled the plug. So story ideas such as the departure of the Freedom Fighters or anything else really.
I'll give them credit. Archie Comics has a lot of dignity.
That wasn't the end. Around this time, Sonic Boom was airing, and so Ian got to write a Sonic Boom comic adaptation. He was also given permission to write a few episodes for Sonic Boom, however, these weren't particularly liked by fans of Sonic Boom.
Well, that would explain why those episodes were so weak.
I'm rolling my eyes right now.
This is terrifying.
After the reboot attempted to make the Archie comics a one-to-one copy of the games, and failed in sales and in terms of keeping an audience, Archie refused to renew the license. Due to fan demand, however, IDW would be making more Sonic the Hedgehog comics, and at the head of all this would be Ian Flynn. Ian Flynn will be writing for the Sonic the Hedgehog comics again.
Goody.
Archie fans
A decision that will be ever known as mistake number 1.
Book. There was even some hopes that the Archie storyline to be wrapped up, and other fans were just glad to see that Ian Flynn was back. The hype for IDW Sonic was huge at the time. IDW was hyping it up as being the comic book that was going to save the company, and new people were also hoping to get into the Sonic comics as a result of this. And the first issue sold very well, selling over 21,000 copies. However, this didn't last. The comic ultimately failed to gain a new audience. Even as people like Diversity in Comics were telling people to buy it, to show the comic book industry what they wanted, it wasn't enough to really save the book, as most normies had dropped off.
So he basically said, buy this comic or you're not a real Sonic fan or whatever dumb shit.
Yeah.
Oh,
the
no.
comic had ultimately
Gatekeeping
failed
is the worst
to
way to
garner
shoot yourself in the
mainstream
foot.
Audience. However,
And
the
he
Archie
purposely
fans that came
split
over were
Sonic
still
and
hopeful,
Sally up in the
and the Sonic
comics
fans that were already
just so
on the
he could
book
force a
really
pairing
liked
with
it,
Sally and
in spite of
Nicole.
its problems. However, as
Oh,
time went
for
on, the hopes of the
God's
Archie
sake,
fan
Flynn.
base had grown null. They were teased consistently about the Freedom Fighters returning, and at the end of the day, Flynn never delivered, only giving out very vague answers that led towards they're not going to be in this year, or next year, or the year after that, and points where he would just change the subject.
Even a drawing of
something
Flynn
else.
makes me want to punch
So the
him.
Archie fan base slowly began to trickle out. However, they were still fans who really liked Ian Flynn's work, and continued to read because they enjoyed the book. However, Flynn began talking more and more during this point in time to his fan base, until eventually all this communication culminated in him insulting his customers. Because, like I said earlier, Diversity in
it was
Comics
only a
had
matter of
promoted
time.
IDW Sonic.
Oh, no.
So Ian Flynn, in all of his wisdom, decided it would be a great idea to immediately insult Comicsgate, the same people that had promoted his book and supported him, many of whom supported him even in his early days on the comic, were now being thrown to the wayside. They were referred to as bigots.
His logic is
And this
literally giving me a
infuriated
headache.
many of them.
Yep.
So, just like that, comic skaters had stopped reading the book. And keep in mind, they supported the comic in spite of John Gray attacking them for not supporting his radical left views. Same thing with Tracy Yardley. They put up with the book in spite of Yardley's radical left views because Ian Flynn was writing for the book. And a lot of these people really liked Ian Flynn. And Ian Flynn decided to go on ahead and insult them. Now all that's left are a bunch of hardcore Sonic fans. And at this point, hardly anybody talks about IDW Sonic. Much like Star Wars before, it was suggested this new entry would save the franchise, and it delivered none of that. to the point where there's a very small amount of viewers left. At this point, because of the drop in sales and IDW's crippling debt, it's not a matter of if the Sonic comic gets canceled soon, it's more so a matter of when. They put all this faith in the Ian Flynn, and he couldn't deliver. And that leads us to where we are today. Now, I'm going to talk about Ian Flynn's bias right here, because I think it
he has
affects
such a
his writing in
punchable
ways
face!
One,
Yep.
I want to
also
punch
affects
him!
the way he acts. So I'm going to give a few examples. Now, I already mentioned how the sales
That shitting
fluctuate
grin
back
just
and
makes
forth,
it more easier.
and how Ian began killing off characters and changing things.
And why am I
so the
not
comics are
surprised
more
that
like
he's a
games,
fucking neckbeard?
such as Ed Graves becoming the special zone. Sure, other writers killed off characters, but not to this extent. And the way Ian did it really came off as being very mean-spirited. I think the worst example of this, of course, being the Mecha Sally arc, because you had characters turning evil, disappearing, getting crippled, dying off, the likes. And one of the series' mainstays, Antoine, was supposed to die. And that was brought to light through Lost Hedgehog
Wait.
Tales.
You really should have stuck to fanfiction.net.
Fought tooth and nail to keep the Freedom Fighters in the comic book. However, Ian stated that the only reason they were kept in the book is because they were grandfathered in. And that would explain why they don't really belong in the reboot, because they weren't really supposed to be in the reboot. So Flynn is obviously biased in favor of the Japanese continuity. However, the funniest part about this is that much of this bias seems to come from Amy Rose. And yes, that does sound ridiculous, but let me explain. Because throughout Flynn's run, he really tries to push the importance of Amy more than any other writer. Such as Amy being the first person that Tails revealed Fiona was evil to. And in the Mecha Sally arc, Amy is the driving force that makes Sonic go back to fighting.
Oh, that's a
Sally
damn
sounds cool on
insult
paper,
right there.
but she becomes a complete pushover. But she's barely a threat to most people, especially Amy. And Mecha Sally tells Amy to go out with Sonic, and we get all these shipping moments between Sonic and Amy. You'd think the guy who just lost his girlfriend would be coming up with ways to get her back and be a bit more heartbroken, but they just try to push on Amy in a lot of these issues. But that will continue into the reboot, where she is
I'm not even a big Sonic
vital
fan.
for
I
them to
don't like
find
this guy.
chaos
What the
and work
hell?
to save the world.
Urge to kill
And yes, I know people are going to
Rising.
say, well, Amy being featured in the reboot more often is because of Paul Kaminsky. I don't believe it. I haven't found any evidence of Paul Kaminsky mandates, and I have no evidence that Paul Kaminsky is obsessed with Amy Rose. I found more instances of Flynn talking positively about Amy than anything else. And he goes into such detail about how Sonic and Amy are kindred spirits, and that Amy doesn't slow down like Sally does. In terms of the games, Son Amy is sorta canon, with the emphasis being on Amy pursuing Sonic. You could also argue Elise and Blaze were the distinction, but the games are pretty clearly Son Amy. The comics are Son Nobody. Sonic is currently into Sally, but we're bound by Sega's rules to not have him fully commit to anybody. He can move on to Amy or somebody else entirely. Reminder, he wants to make the comics more like the games, and this is the sort of bias that he shows. The worst example of his bias, I think, is in IDW with Amy. Because in Forces, Amy is a radio operator, and she is a fighter. She's clearly a very competent fighter because she's able to hold her own in the battle. Now, here's the next part I wanted to sort of bring up. Knuckles. Knuckles was the leader of the Resistance, and he was the one who helped bring the Resistance to victory. Now, sure, you can say, well, his plan to take Robotropolis back failed, but I'm going to interject by saying that Knuckles' plan would have worked if Infinite didn't come into the picture. And plus, under his leadership, the Resistance still succeeded. So how did he go from being a competent leader to a bumbling idiot? Conversely, why is it that Amy is all of a sudden a leader? I don't remember her being second in command in Forces, but IDW retcons this.
God damn it,
Just so we
Flynn.
can have Amy Rose become the leader
Oh,
later
the
on
dreaded
down the
retcon.
line. And when Knuckles is next to Amy, I get the
no.
feeling that
Yep.
they just downgraded Knuckles just so Amy could become the leader.
I smell a
because she's
certain
the one doing all the
agenda
leading,
being
not
put-
Knuckles. So Amy ultimately ends up becoming a Mary Sue version of Sally Acorn.
Starts
But
with
then
an
again,
F,
The reason I say Mary Sue
ends with a
version
T.
of it is because Sally Acorn actually had flaws.
Yep.
She had a character arc. She felt like an actual
Because don't get me wrong,
person.
I
She
like Amy,
developed.
but
And you got to see her develop,
to
and that's what makes Sally such a beloved
put Knuckles
character.
on the back
Amy
burner
in IDW
for
is
her,
just a leader
no, I
throughout
liked
the entire
Knuckles
comic.
in a leadership
She has just
position.
about everything handed to her on a silver platter, and any flaws that she has are ultimately glossed over or are not her fault at all. The best example I can give would be Rey in Star Wars. Look at how she's written and look at how Amy is written in IDW.
No, no.
Trying to shove down your throat how
Sheesh.
great this female character
Oh.
is.
That ain't right.
And to show you how biased Flynn is towards Amy Rose,
Oh,
the Battle for Angel Island is nothing more than a copy of Panic in the Sky.
Cute.
In Panic in the Sky, Sally broadcasts the plan onto television, and this causes it to get intercepted, nearly destroying their chances on the battlefield, and almost killing Nicole. But in Battle for Angel Island, Amy doesn't make any of these same mistakes. In fact, the only person who causes the plan to go awry is Shadow. Before Archie was canceled, Sonic was supposed to leave the Freedom Fighters, and there's a very likely chance they were going to be phased out entirely after that. This is why I don't think it's a coincidence Ian killed Sally 2 or 3 times. Because he's so biased in favor of Amy Rose, and it's cringy. It's really, really cringy. Because he has to ruin several characters, and he has to ruin the storyline just so Amy Rose can get the spotlight. For, as he calls it, a 15-page advertisement for the games. And I know some people are going to say, well, why would he take Sally Acorn's personality and give it to Amy if he hated Sally Acorn so much? And I would like to remind you all that True Love Heart 94 also really hates Sally Acorn, and yet he praised the hell out of Amy Rose acting more like Sally Acorn. There's no logic to it, he just really wants it to happen. And yes, I did just compare
Double
Ian
standards
Flynn to
be
True
real,
Love
yo.
94. We're gonna see more of this as time goes on, by the way. Now, I think in terms of his obsession with Sonic,
No idea
and
who
absolute
he is, but don't
disdain
like him
for
already.
anything American Sonic, I think the peak of that, the one that I absolutely despise the most, was when he decided it would be a good idea to make Sally and Nicole gay for no other reason than just to make them gay. It was a plot line that made absolutely no sense in any regard of the word, especially since Nicole is supposed to remember the old world, so why is she a lesbian all of a sudden? Who knows? But Ian Flynn said initially,
If I didn't think that it would seriously derail things, I would push for it harder. But I honestly think that if we were to try to go that route, the fan backlash would be detrimental to the book. I'm kind of done with it in general. So this isn't to say I don't.
That already
support
happened, buddy.
A Sally Nicole pairing. I'm just kind of done with pairings at all.
and once the comic ended, he immediately said, Leah and I were surprised we got away with it being so blatant. And so, whenever the question was brought up or the idea was questioned, Ian would respond, sometimes, and give a very passive-aggressive remark saying it was going to happen either way, only to then immediately say, but I'm done with shippings.
Okay, no shipping. None. I am done with it. You can set sail with any ship you want, but do not come to me and say the majority of the fan base wants, because they do not.
So the answer is no, then.
Aww, is little Flynn
Okay.
mad?
What about Sally and Nicole?
No.
What a baby.
I mean, you
Don't
even
do it.
you
So
even
many
said
flavors
one
in the
of
world,
them.
and he chooses to be
I'm
salty.
just saying.
Yeah, well, that storyline's dead now, so how do you like that?
We don't have to worry about that anymore. All right, fine.
The intention, we never actually got to do it, but the intention was that Sally would be bi.
Look at that shadow
She did
face.
have interest in Sonic in the early days, and
I believe that's the
things
same
worked out
face
between
Steven
them,
is
and
making.
that she would
Mhm.
eventually move on with Nicole.
So
And
yeah,
when?
he was aware that the fans didn't want it, but he went through it anyways, and his logic
But he
is,
still
well,
did
if
it.
she can't get with Sonic, then she decides
Reminds
to
me
go
of that
for,
line that
Nicole,
Random used to quote.
because that makes
But I'm
sense
gonna
to
do
me.
it
It's the
anyway.
same logic that was used to explain why Iceman is all of a sudden gay, which never made sense then, it still doesn't make sense now. Though nowhere near as
Oh
bad
my
as how some of
God.
his friends act, because
Oh.
the way Jen had acted was pretty bad.
Why did you have
But
to
the
remind me
bias
of that?
here isn't just because he wants Sonic to be with Amy Rose, although it does seem to play a big role in this one.
Weirds me out.
The bigger one, however, is the fact that he decided to try to shove politics into the comic when it didn't belong, and in such a way that it didn't really fit.
Oh, did he though?
Sure, there have been politics in this comic beforehand, but they
If
were
I've not said it
usually
before,
woven into the
but
storyline to make
can
sense.
we keep politics
And, you know,
out
keep the
of
story
media that we
entertaining.
love?
I don't even know what
please?
point Sally being gay had.
If it's a
my-
fantasy
oh,
setting
what a
where
gay
you have a
character now,
tyrannical king,
guys.
okay, it
And
works.
shoving that into a comic book series
But
where the main
modern
draw
day
is its characters
politics,
and story,
not so much.
and then you decide to butcher 2 of the characters for political reasons, that's not going to sit well with your fan base. That's not going to sit well at all. And granted, as I've already shown, this is the first time he's butchered characters for dumb reasons, but this was the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of people. But this wasn't even the biggest attack on his customers, or his largest display of social justice warrior standards.
Oh no.
That would be the whole foray
Oh,
between him
he
and
didn't.
Comicsgate. I mentioned that earlier in the video, but here's the longer version of what happened. You see, the artist at IDW, known as John Gray, had begun chain-blocking people over following diversity in comics. And he began attacking them, calling them Nazis, and saying that they were harassing him. And I have no idea whether or not that part is actually true.
He didn't.
I don't know if anyone actually harassed John Gray or not. It could very well be a form of gaslighting, but either way, we have John Gray calling anybody to the left of Lenin Nazis and homophobes and other kinds of phobes and all the other dictionary definitions that SJWs love to spew out nonsensically. And a lot, too. And so Ian Stewart comes in to defend John Gray, only to reveal how much he has a dislike for comic book shops, and ends up alienating half of his fan base, if not a good portion of his fan base. And this ultimately led to comic skaters calling Sega up on the matter. Now, the last time they called Sega, it was over the
Sega too.
increasingly seedy business practices of IDW. But this one was bigger than the last
you know
one.
what they
Last one
say,
had
snitches get
210.
Yep.
This one had way more than even that. So, when people are calling up Sega representatives, you know there is definitely a problem. And the way he describes comic book stores shows me a man who really isn't all that interested in comic books, to say the least. Although I wouldn't actually consider this the first time he's actually gone
Why
after
did he get
comics
the job in the first place?
I think that would have to be this little series of
Trolling?
tweets where Ian Flynn thanks
Oh.
his fans for quote-unquote correcting somebody who used a source which he called his hater, since he can't be there to correct every bit of misinformation, while using a bunch of wording to hammer in how grateful he is for them doing this, and saying that he's not trying to recruit a cheer squad, but that's obviously what he's trying to do. So who made this mysterious video? And who was the mysterious source? I don't know. He never says who it is.
I bet it was him
or
using
how it's
another
spreading
account.
misinformation. So for all I know,
Yep.
it could actually be someone exposing something that Flynn doesn't want to get out there. Although if I had to guess who the source was, it'd probably be Hedgefox, since Hedgefox is Flynn's biggest critic. Although then again, how is the journal in question, or whatever journal we're talking about here, how in question is that false? Because doesn't Hedgefox usually use screenshots? I'm just saying. Furthermore, who is the video in question? Well, it's either me, or it's that Umbrella guy. And I'm more inclined to believe it was that Umbrella guy, since that Umbrella guy made an entire video where he does discuss Hedgefox's journal. But either way, this isn't professional. He shouldn't be going after me, or that Umbrella guy, or really anybody. He shouldn't even be discussing us. Especially with how vague this is, because he's basically telling his fan base to go after people that he doesn't like. That is A, not professional, and B, a terrible way to handle your fan base. But Flynn did it anyways. This isn't even the first
He's
time
just
he's
getting
done
others
something
to
like
troll
this.
for
This has been
him.
going back to his early days in the fandom, where he would start pestering
Wow,
comic book
I've
writers to get
heard
him onto
about
the
some
comic.
toxic
There is
people
also
in
the
the
fact of the
industry,
matter
but
that Ian actually
this
encouraged
dude's
bad
just
behavior on his forums
borderline
from time to
industrial
time.
waste.
Especially towards
And I
his
thought it was
critics.
Brad
There is this
in the
one
last
instance
video
of this
we
person,
watched
Nogus,
of it.
who was pretty mad
This
to
is
see the
just
comics.
upgrading it to
So he complains from time to time, and
tenfold and then some.
almost immediately after he says Ian doesn't care about the freedom fighters, people start antagonizing him. And this quickly escalates. So when he tries to give them evidence, they continue to taunt him. And then Ian joins in, and the situation gets worse. Needless to say, this user got banned pretty quickly. Now, you can say that Nagas acted out of line, yes, but you can also say that Ian and his friends also acted out of line. If anything, Ian actually encouraged the bad behavior by not trying to break up the conversation and say, stop it. He allowed it to continue, and he allowed it to fester. I also found his end of the light comment as well. Nagas clearly knew what he was talking about, because at one point earlier, someone mentioned to Ian that they're worried about his health, and he says, well, I gotta run it this way. And this person is concerned that Ian's going to have a mental breakdown. So they are genuinely concerned for Ian's health, and Ian's response is that he is fine, and that people shouldn't use the Sonic fans line because any negative changes are considered trolling on his part. Flynn also says that BKC can get rowdy, and that he has to give them a collective stink eye. But it's not a bad place to be, guys. He also says that he makes admonishing comments that are made to be broad, so it doesn't feel like he's putting a sack of verbal bricks on someone's head. He also says that he has everything planned out, I'm assuming for the book. And that everyone's going to adapt to what's going on, discovering everything piece by piece, and that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And that you guys are going to get to see the light at the end of the tunnel. It never happened, ever. But this comment, the reason why it's of interest to me is that it does show that Ian Flynn was antagonizing people on the forums. But this isn't the first time either. In fact, there's also instances of Ian Flynn talking about Penders and the whole Penders lawsuit.
Oh boy.
Because Flynn states that on Penders' own forums, Penders himself say that he didn't own the characters. Flynn also stated that Penders would take him over to court for a lot of things. He also stated some of the mandates as well. This seems to be some of the earliest mention of the mandates that I could find. In fact, a lot of
it wasn't already?
about the Penders lawsuit came from the Bumble King forums, much of which isn't even accurate to official documents. Strangely enough, even Wikipedia sources the Bumble King forums when talking about Penders. I also found it weird how not a whole lot of people challenged Flynn on this. In fact, one of the rules happens to be no harsh criticism. What's harsh criticism? I don't know. It could be anything. It could just be a broad term in there to keep people from saying anything that Flynn doesn't want them to say that happens to be negative about him, be it true or not. There is also this interesting set of notes made by one of Flynn's moderators on a guy named Metallica in 1991. Karaji Leah writes, needs to get a grasp on the concept of opinion, and then the concept of informed opinion, i.e., don't go complaining about addition of new characters like the Chaotix when Vector was created at the time of Sonic 1. If you have a complaint or dislike, cite actual reasons, and make sure your opinion is formed on some kind of valid basis. Now, opinions aren't entirely based on facts, but I don't know. This comment sounds very, Gulan-like. I wonder if they're handing out any free Kool-Aid. There is also the fact of the matter that the Bubble King forum was an echo chamber throughout much of its lifespan. There is a reason why when you go onto the forums, you hardly see
no fun allowed.
Really questioning Flynn, especially on the Sad AM site, because he would actually prevent people from joining in on the server if they were part of Sad AM fan sites. One person, of course, being Viuli, and another one who I've mentioned more times in this channel than I can really count, being Zealous Fox. Zealous Fox has mentioned to me in calls where he made an account on the Bubble
fuck is that?
because he was part of a Sad AM fan site.
Oh my god.
So, in essence, the Bumble King forum was an echo chamber that allowed an incredibly toxic community to fester. And this toxicity ultimately ended up bleeding out into other places. Like DeviantArt!
Oh no.
Which is where we get this wonderful little quote from Ian Flynn, where we have him attacking someone and saying, the hedgehog will do what I tell him to do, and he'll like it. These are the words of a control freak, right here. But it also reminds me of someone who is a very, very wonderful person. Who could that be?
I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if you feel tired. You're not the one calling the shots, you fucking prick. So shut up and do what I tell you.
The last thing I wish to touch upon is Sonic Scan F.
I don't even know who that is,
a
but
website
that's
dedicated to Sonic the Hedgehog comic book scans, some of which were very rare. Now, when they stopped hosting the comics, they wrote a letter mentioning Ian Flynn and his crew. And strangely enough, both Archie and Sega were well aware of the website's existence. So as it turns out, according to a staff member, Flynn was the one who wrote the cease and desist, and that they were ratted out by one of Flynn's fans who was also on the staff. This fan ratted them out to Flynn because he wanted to get on Flynn's good side. So Flynn and his fan base are ultimately responsible for destroying very rare pieces of Sonic history, some of which remains lost even to this very day. But do you guys see what I mean?
God
I had briefly
damn it,
mentioned more
Flynn.
of this stuff in the Samaj Hogue video that Flynn was doing shit like this. And I say briefly because I didn't have enough time to talk about it in full in the Samaj Hogue video. But we see all this stuff right here. And we saw a lot of this stuff in Samaj Hogue and McTrap. We see Samaj Hogue harassing people, and that kind of behavior was perpetuated on the forums. Some of these people abuse the copyright system to bully people into submission, and we see Flynn doing the same thing. And we see a lot of the whole Ken Penders hysteria was being fed into the fanbase by Flynn, which is why a lot of Flynn's fanbase, including MigTrap397, were so obsessed with Ken Penders to the point where they wanted to kill him. So if this is a Sonic fanbase as a whole, then this is Ian Flynn's fanbase. There is a reason why I compare his fanbase to a cult. And I know not all of them are like this, but I don't think this kind of behavior should be encouraged, ever. This is harassment. This is abuse. And the fact that a professional comic
So
book
would it be
writer was
fair to
encouraging
say
this kind of
that
stuff
partial
honestly makes me sick.
toxicity of the Sonic fan base is due to Ian
Okay,
Flynn?
so what if Ian's a bit of a jerk? As long as he's still writing good comics, we can be fine. But pesky old Sega keeps holding him back. Yeah, about that. Those mandates never actually
holding him back,
existed.
okay.
The mandates that you see on forums, they never existed. I already found it suspicious enough that the only place where I could find them, at least the earliest place that I could find them, was the Bumble King forums. And the fact that Flynn was also the one who was spreading them around. But I hate to tell it to you all, but the mandates do not exist. They never existed. Now you're probably saying, well, where's the proof? And I say, here it is. Now initially I wanted to keep this one secret since he wanted to be anonymous, but at this point I can pretty much just leak these with no consequences whatsoever. So Richard Kudo tried to revive his whole SatAM movie project, and of course some of the things that he said were very interesting, and I'll leave some of the screenshots up on the screen so you can scroll through them. But to give you a basic rundown, Sega of Japan wants everything to be game-centric. That's pretty obvious, and they are heavily focused on nostalgia. But why is that? Well, it has a lot to do with the reboot. For some bizarre reason, Sega came to the conclusion that the reboot was more successful than the pre-reboot, even though the reboot was the shortest-lived run of the comic. Because of this, they took the games into a direction of being more heavily reliant on nostalgia, much like the reboot, and of course being much more watered down. This is also why they will not use the Freedom Fighters. They see no reason to use the Freedom Fighters because they really don't like the versions of the Freedom Fighters that were featured in the reboot. They seem to like the old incarnations of the characters. It also gets weirder because in Sega's mind, the Freedom Fighters remind people of Ken Penders, and they want to distance themselves as much from Ken Penders' stuff as possible, because they think that that's what's going to piss off the fans, which doesn't make any sense when you realize people were asking for those characters back. And at some point, Richard basically ends off by saying that if the movie does good, then Sega will probably go back to doing something creative again. Because as it stands right now, Sonic is in the gutter. The franchise is at an even worse point than it's been in years. While Forces tried to do some things new, it still was bogged down by nostalgia and a lot of other problems. And it means that we'll never see anything as remotely creative as Adventure 1, 2, or anything from the 2000s or Classic era ever again. And that's primarily because Ian Flynn has basically turned this franchise into a direction that's going to kill it. And Hedgefox would later contact Rafa Knight, and Hedgefox would later leak these conversations. Now, this does reveal a lot. Now, Hedgefox asks her a question, talking about the mandates, and she gives an example of what a Sega mandate is versus what a Flynn mandate is. And she says outright that the mandates that are found on forums are actually things that are made by Flynn. These mandates were created to make sure that things didn't go crazy without Flynn's consent. Afterwards, Hedgehog starts complaining. And while he is complaining, Raffinite goes into detail about how, well, you might like Evan Stanley's work, or you might like the work of the people who did the spinoff, but it all goes back to Flynn. And I have no doubt in my mind that Flynn still approves the stories. Of course, Hedgefox initially doesn't believe it, but she keeps on telling him that no matter what stories you liked, Flynn had the final say. She does state that Sega has given them complete creative freedom while writing the book. She does not, however, state that Ian Flynn was given control over the book, so to me it just comes off as him basically exerting full control over the book. But on the bright side, Raffinite does confirm that Sally Acorn is owned by Sega, and that there are no legal problems when getting her into the book. It's just that Flynn really doesn't want to, and in her eyes, they don't need to be in the book because it would be bad for new-time readers. Which means the mandates that people were complaining about
And I
for
believe
years
that was
that
the one that
were
set a
imposed
certain
upon
adorable one off.
IDW after the
Yeah.
Enders lawsuit never actually existed. They were a creation of Ian Flynn. It's not only that, but it also shows that Flynn had a vice-like grip over the comics. Because everything went through him. Everyone had to follow his rules whether they liked it or not. But it also means that at some point during Archie's run, Flynn got full control over the comic and turned it into his pet project. Which means every single problem people have had with the comic since Archie has been due to Ian Flynn's influence. And to give an example of just how much power Flynn has over the comic, let's say you joined IDW as a writer, and you had this epic idea. Let's say this epic idea is where Sonic learns about his past, and throughout his journey, Eggman tries to stop him because this could potentially destroy the Eggman Empire. And so Sonic develops as a character and learns more and more about himself, and becomes a better person at the end. And you know the fanbase is going to love this story, but Ian Flynn will say,
You didn't say the magic word.
whereas Flynn could write a storyline where, in an attempt to impress Sonic, Amy tries to assassinate the president of Gun, but she fails, gets arrested, and then Sonic comes out as gay for Tails.
What?
Of course, I really don't.
Whoa,
think
whoa,
you
whoa,
can
hold
like
up,
that,
hold
but
up,
I
wait,
think you get
huh?
the point.
No,
Ian Flynn has way too much control over the comics.
Oh,
Yeah, no
God.
problem with the
Sega
lifestyle,
let him
but
do whatever
what?
he wants, then he'll do it. But he doesn't want anyone else to have that same kind of creative freedom.
Oh my god.
So he
He was
forced
serious.
mandates on all the
I
writers.
don't like this.
But
I
of
don't-
course,
I don't
he took
like
the comics in a
him.
direction that nobody wanted.
Get
Nobody
him out
wanted
of
the
the
comics to be
comic
exactly
now.
like the games. Nobody
And
wanted the
also,
comics to
Sonic and
just
Tails are
retell
like
the same
brothers.
stories they had already seen in the games. Nobody wanted the comics to be this boring.
And isn't
People
What did
wanted
I say?
character
as well?
development.
You
And
just
Ian
saw
didn't.
Sonic and Tails
So when
trying
people
to
complained
lip
about
service each
the
other.
reboot,
Yeah,
he
it
leaked
Tails
his
is
own
13.
mandates and blamed them
Yeah.
on Sega
No.
so people would
Just
go
no.
after Sega.
And the fact that
That's
they're like
why
brothers.
so
No,
far, no
no.
form of media
What did
aside
I
from
just
the
say?
comics
What
has
have
ever
I
had
said
these
multiple
mandates
times?
enforced upon them.
Incest is not
And I'd
Incest
like
is
to
not
remind you
incest?
all, this is still happening.
You bet your fucking
As
ass it
recently
isn't.
as 2019, when Flynn was getting praise for the comic.
Somehow Sonic and
Someone
Sally
asked
is
Flynn,
horrible
Mr.
and disgusting.
Flynn,
Yet
why is Sega keeping a tight leash
an
on what
incest
can
parent?
or can't happen in
No,
IDW
no,
Sonic?
no.
And Flynn's response
Fuck you,
is,
Flynn.
They are not. And yet, later, the moment he turns Shadow into an
Is this guy
idiot,
still
just
part
to
of
have Shadow
IDW?
roboticized, he says the following.
What was
I
your
hope
reaction
not.
after seeing the criticism and thoughts of the fans after Sonic IDW issue number 19?
They're not completely wrong. Kind of amused with the discourse that came out of it because Shadow doesn't act like that. He acts like this. No, he doesn't. He acts like this. No, he doesn't. He acts like this. In this game, he clearly acts like this. Yeah, well, in this game, he clearly acts like this. It's almost like he hasn't had a really consistent characterization since his inception. I wish we could do something closer to what we had in the old days, but that's not where they want his character to be right now, so that's not where he is.
He was a
Why don't you
motherfucking lie.
Which
define
means
the
whenever he says he's
old
fighting to put the
days?
Freedom Fighters in the book, or that Sega forced him to ruin Shadow, or that the stories aren't as interesting because Sega is forcing him to
There
water
are
it
no
down,
mandates, you
it's all a lie.
hack.
So Flynn could add the Freedom Fighters whenever he wanted to into IDW. He could in the Zombot arc
It's
right
just like
here
that
and now.
scene in Polly.
And he could
Liar,
give the stories
liar,
more depth,
liar,
but he
liar,
doesn't
liar.
want to. So he had a heavy hand in killing the comics and making the fan base the toxic cesspit it is today. And there's even a possibility he's already written for the games,
Oh,
starting
So
with
he's making
Sonic
just
Force's
excuses
beta
not to
script.
do shit. Then
You know,
huh?
the one that was so terrible that Sega scrapped it and had to bring in Pontaff to fix it? Yeah, that beta script. I mean, it's certainly written like how Ian Flynn would write a script. And according to Ian Flynn's portfolio, it says he wrote for Sonic Forces, not the prequel comics. We're talking Forces specifically. And even if he didn't write for Forces, even if he didn't write that awful beta script, he still shouldn't be writing for the games. He keeps blaming Sega and using his fanbase to shut up his critics. He hasn't improved. In fact, a lot of the problems people have with the game so far, such
Why
as
is this guy hasn't fired yet?
over-reliance
That's the
on
real
memes,
question.
flanderizing characters, heavy
That's
use
a
of
million-dollar
Sega
question.
to appeal to older fans, and not doing anything interesting with the plot, well, all that stuff is found in Ian Flynn's books, especially in IDW. In fact, if anything, IDW cramps that crap up to 11. But of course, someone had to leak these band-aids before this video came out. Now, in spite of the fact that these have absolutely nothing to do with what Rafa was talking about or what Aaron Rebel was talking about, it also supposedly exposes that Rafa Knight was lying about the mandates and that Flynn was right the entire time. And of course, you have Ian Flynn here to back it up. So it must be true then. So I guess I've lost, except for the fact that this creates a catch-22. Now let's ignore the evidence we have so far, ignore the fact that Rafa leaked these mandates to Hedgefox, in hopes of him liking Ian Flynn, and why they were originally taken down to begin with. Let's ignore all of this for a few minutes. If Ian Flynn is telling the truth about Rafa, then what that means is that he leaked a bunch of mandates that were not supposed to be made public, which in turn ruined Sega's reputation and cost Sega lots of customers. And if Rafa Knight is to be believed, and Ian Flynn is lying about the mandates, then that means that he created a bunch of fake mandates to strangle the comic creatively, which drove away customers and ruined Sega's reputation by blaming it on them. And that made them look incompetent. So either way, Flynn is a complete liability to Sega. They have no reason to keep him around. So all of those Flynn for Sonic shills that came from the forums and beyond, who parrot Flynn's narrative, shit on Archie for being written like a comic book and not a game, and then praise IDW as if it's the second coming of Christ, and that it's the direction that modern comic books should be going in, while making all these shitty Ken Penders jokes that stopped being funny back in 2013. And considering how little integrity a lot of these people actually have, and the fact that a lot of them don't even read comic books, why are we listening to these posers? They keep calling us immature for criticizing IDW and trying to shame us into submission so they can push Flynn for Sonic and talk about how awesome IDW is. We're not allowed to talk, but they are. And that, in part, is what's causing Sega to go down the direction it's going down now. And that's only going to continue hurting the franchise. And the sales reflect that. 21,000 to 9,000. How do you fuck it up that badly? And what's even worse is that Flynn's perfectly capable of writing a good comic, but he just doesn't want to. And so they are desperate to try to keep him on the book. And the longer he stays on the book, the more damage he does to the franchise, and the more likely he is to write for the games. And all I have to say on that is, look what happened to Archie.
Cycle.
Look what's happening to IDW. That's what's going to happen if Ian Flynn gets to write for the games. And that becomes a very likely possibility the longer he stays with this franchise.
Oh, no.
And they become desperate to keep him on the book and get him into the games. And yet, by defending him in this way, they've actually cornered him. They've actually proven that he is nothing more than a liability. And considering how many people have actually proven that those mandates are fake, including Aaron Weber...
Answer this one indirectly, but I wanted to know if Sega put down a list of hard restrictions on what Sonic stuff you can or cannot use, like at the beginning. Like, say a writer wanted to adapt Sonic Labyrinth, and like, Sega would step in and say, no, you can't do that. Or a writer wanted to say, put Madonna in the comic.
Or Luigi.
Yeah, like...
So Sega might not step in and say Sonic Labyrinth, but even if they didn't, I would.
Yeah, we didn't put any kind of hard and fast rules saying you can't do this, you can't do that. We approach things on a case-by-case basis, and whatever really makes sense for the character and the brand, and just telling the story, of Sonic in general, making sure that we're doing it properly without jumping the shark.
Flynn can no longer keep using Sega as a scapegoat, even for things that happened in the Mega Man comic, which, yes, actually happened. And we cannot keep getting silenced, or else this franchise will die. So I think it's about time that we as fans put a wrench in that hole and actually start speaking up. Because I'm hoping that
called
with
a
this
riot.
video, more people will talk out against IDW publicly, and more people will actually call out the kind of abuse that's been caused by Flint's fan base. And at some point, I'm hoping that somebody, anybody at Sega, will hear this and do something about this, because this has gone on for long enough, and it needs to stop. And if IDW does get canceled, then it's not like it's the end of the world for Sonic the Hedgehog comics. There are certainly other publishers. I mean, Udon has none of the problems that IDW has, and the people there seem to be fans of Sonic in general and not just the games, or at least a very biased, twisted version of the games, like at IDW. And they did try to seek the license before IDW did, although granted IDW got it first. So if IDW is canceled, then we should push for Udon. I think it'd be better for the franchise in the long run, too. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't already, subscribe. And
Their
if you
Street Fighter
liked,
comics
then
are
hit a like.
fantastic.
And if you'd
Oh,
like,
yeah, really
comment.
good.
I always love to read you guys' comments.
So, yeah.
What the hell?
Yep.
Oh my god.
Flynn.
I mean,
Flynn. You utterly disgusting piece of human garbage.
god damn, no wonder this dude is hated around the Sonic community. What the fuck?
It's all his fault!
Oh my god. Yo, this is terrible. How you going?
IDW gave a narcissist so much power.
Even Tony Stark's going like, whoa. That's too much.
I think I have a new nickname for him.
Uh-oh.
The Sonic Antichrist.
Oh yeah, that works.
You use on your own time, dude. I'm not gonna go that far.
I mean, despite how controversial it is, yet after hearing what this dude has put every Sonic fan through, yeah, I'm kind of with Steve on this one. Fuck him.
This guy, not to compare to devastating terminal diseases, I'll use a different kind of anatomical disease. This guy is utter hemorrhoids for the franchise!
Yeah.
No. Or better yet, he's a fucking parasite. He's going to eat the franchise from the inside if they keep letting him have this kind of power. And the way they described him, he didn't sound like an editor or a publisher. He sounded like a fucking tyrant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. No. Nobody. This company is not made to appease your ego. You're supposed to make a product that everyone will read and enjoy, not for something to wank off to in your spare time. If you want a franchise to succeed, you can't alienate your customers. You can't be condescending. You can't insult. You can disagree with some of their views. That's fine and dandy, but you don't talk them down. You don't insult them. You don't encourage those who are in your echo chamber to borderline stalk and harass people. No. Fuck you, Ian Flynn. Fuck you and the roast and the horse you rode in on.
And don't troll just to try and get a job.
Oh, no, that. Ugh.
Man, my ass was on the most annoyed face possible seeing this shit. It was like, wow, you really just gonna bullshit everyone just because you want to put what you want? Like,
and he can't.
You ain't shit, buddy. You ain't shit.
And of course, he can't say, "Oh, it's because of the mandates."
Liar.
Hold on.
Oh boy.
So, Raiden, does this mean Penders gets the L of the...
Damn right! Ian Flynn, I may not know you that much, but boy, how you gonna piss off the Sonic fan base? What you want to do? Like, what the hell? I mean,
I dread to think what Random would say about this whole thing.
Oh boy!
It's one of the reasons I'm not in the Sonic Facebook group in there, because because even Ashley left that Facebook group because it got so toxic in there.
Yeesh.
And I'm still part of it, and I'm still part of it, and I don't really check it out that much. I'm not saying I'll leave or anything. I'm just like, I just see all this stupid shit, and I'm just like, oh, so that's the way I operate. Okay, I'm gonna go somewhere else.
Yeah.
At least we know part of the reason for majority of the toxicity now.
Yep.
We found the tumor. Now they just need to extract it.
And
how long this guy's been part of this?
I think 2012.
Jeez.
God damn!
Good lord.
I can't recall if that's the exact number. I just know that back when I read a lot of the Sonic comics when they were really, really good as a teen, it was mostly Penders doing the writing. Whether you have a good or ill opinion of the guy or not, at least he wasn't trying to force his fan fiction or Mary Sue's on people.
I mean, you take away the Sonic and Sally relationship, which was actually one of the reasons a lot of people went to it,
Maybe.
because it was, a nice complementarity, if that's even a word, where you have Sonic, who's the brash, leap before you look sort of perspective, while Sally is the very intelligent, very resourceful, at times very stubborn-headed, but she would actually think things through. And she was a flawed character because, as Lance said, she made mistakes. She had her, her own faults and what have you, but that made her more three-dimensional. Amy is just like... Now, here's the thing. I don't hate Amy Rose. I hate the way she's written. And the way Ian writes her, like, she is the one who can do no wrong. She is really the hero. It's just like, dude, fuck off. Amy, to be fair, particularly the way she's written in Boom, minus that one episode he wrote for her. Yeah.
I don't even remember it.
Yeah, better off not. Amy in Sonic Boom, she's actually okay, because she's actually written as a character. She has flaws. She has little quirks, little foibles. She likes to go to, like their own. I wouldn't call the dog board game like their sort of version of Pokemon, but it was like, their sort of thing of having like fan community games, because if we recall, it was one that Robotnik was also part of that community, or the way she was instructing Styx the Badger how to be more like a lady and what have you.
How Robotnik hired her to be an interior designer.
Yeah, those sort of episodes, like, I look at the way she's written there and it's like, okay, I have no problem with that. I can get behind the concept of that. But the one where, oh, I am the leader, it's like, wait, Knuckles was in command of the Freedom Fighters. Why do you suddenly get promoted? And the way that he, as he said, he would take aspects of Sally's character before the big reboot and put it onto Amy, it's just like, what was so wrong with Sally? Sally was just fine. And also, don't get me stuck now. For anybody listening, do not take this out of context. I don't have a problem with Sonic characters having LGBTQ aspects. But I have a problem with taking established characters that are beloved just the way they are, and you change their characters just to pander to demographics, which, for context, people from said demographics hate that. Lydia, who, as it has been documented, is bisexual.
As is L-Man.
They hate being pandered to by having characters change. I mean, could you imagine how Lydia would react if, let's say for the sake of discussion, they never cancelled Buffy? Let's just go with that premise for a moment. And in, say, episode 1, because what was it, the season that they finished on before they went to the comics? Was it season...
I think that season 7 was where the show finished. Season 8 was started continuing in the comics.
Imagine season 8, out of nowhere, say the very first 10 seconds of episode 1, Buffy comes out and says, "Oh, me and Willow are now girlfriends, and we're gonna go and do stuff in front of y'all." They'd be like, "The fuck did this come from?"
That would be even more baffling because of Willow's already established relationship, for one thing.
Yeah, or Wynn's situation, for example. What if they had, in the first episode of The Punisher, Frank Castle comes out and says, "Me and Matt Murdock are now a thing," and it's like, what?
That would make absolutely make no sense. And I have to say this. I have no issue with gay characters either. There's a lot in the LGBTQ community that I love in the comic books industry. I repeatedly sung the praises of Midnighter Hollow. Whenever Marvel actually writes and makes up their mind to do stories for him, I like Wanda's son Wicca. He's a very well-written character when he's given spotlight. If you ignore the CW TV shows, I like how Kate Kane is written as Batwoman and her relationships with the likes of Renee Montoya during her Question days and Detective Maggie Sawyer. I practically squealed with joy when reading the New 52 run of her when she proposed to Maggie. I was like, oh my god, that is so sweet! I squealed for days.
Aww.
And there's a lot of characters that I enjoy in video games that are a similar way. There's a character in Persona 4 who kind of is LGBTQ. I just can't remember their name at the moment because I rented Persona 4. Let's see. I repeatedly play as Soldier 76. He's gay. I play Tracer once in a while. She's gay, and their stories were well established in the comics through short and sweet moments. Soldier 76's through his confiding with Anna about his past relationship with Vincent, and how he's happy that Vincent found a partner and got married. Tracer's was through a very chaste and sweet kiss during a Christmas special with Emily. If anything, Soldier 76 is my second main. My first main is actually Reinhardt. But this isn't about Overwatch. This is an example of LGBTQ characters that I like. I'm a big fan of Sailor Moon, and I love Haruka Tenno and Michiru Kaio, aka Sailor Neptune, Sailor Uranus. Not in those orders, because Haruka's Uranus. But I also loved Revolutionary Girl Utena, where you have Utena Tenjo and Anthe Himamiya. So anyone who tries to call me a bigot or being brainwashed by some evil higher power out there, no, I just debunked you. Go sit down and eat a Snickers.
And then we get to Sally and Nicole.
Wouldn't mind so much if there was actual established signs. That's my problem. If you want to add in like an LGBTQ character into the Sonic comic verse, go ahead. Just make sure that you don't write him as a stereotype, and that you kind of show signs of a relationship establishing. That's what people get annoyed by, is just pushing for the sake of pushing, rather than a meaningful relationship developing.
It's as I say, at the end of the day, it all comes down to good storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Ian Flynn, he doesn't know how to do that.
It's like I've also said, Sonic and Sally had been, a well-accepted couple within the comics as well as the TV series since 1993. They play off of each other because here's the thing: opposites attract. I mean, yeah, you can have characters that have things in common with each other. That's fine. But then there are times whereby, you know, characters are drawn to each other because there are things that they do that they wouldn't, but they find that appealing. Sally was always the sobering yin to Sonic's out of control yang. And also because I always liked the sort of dialogue that she was given, and Kathy's voice just suit the character perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
But, to suddenly, out of nowhere, when they did the reboot, and they never fully explained how she got her organic form back, it's just like, oh, she's not a robot anymore. I'm like, where the hell did this come from? And that was just very lazy writing. People get on the case with her, with her outfit and like, why is she covered up all of a sudden? It's like, look, there's, particularly with the way she was drawn sometimes, where some people like to draw attention to certain details, it's just like, put her in the biker shorts and, a tank top, and it's just like, that's it, that's done. I didn't have an issue with it. If anything, I thought it was a nice contrast. But it's just the way they changed her personality. Like, Sonic hasn't seen her in ages, and his first instinct is to hug her because it's like, hey, my girl's back. And then all of a sudden she's like, hey, what's going into you? And even after her memory's restored, she doesn't go to him anymore. And I'm like, that makes no sense. You have all these years of, alright, it was an on and off again relationship, but keep in mind, Sonic is not exactly the most stable person to be in a relationship in the context of a character storyline. But there was always that chemistry, there was always that magnetism between the two of them. If you have to look at it in this context, Sally was the A+ student. She studied hard and she trained hard. Sonic was just the comedic jock. He was a good comedic jock, but he was the star player simply because he had the natural gifts, where Sally worked for hers. She studied and trained hard. And then to suddenly throw it all away because Ian Flynn's like, oh, I want to push this, this SJW feminist narrative. I'm like, oh, no. I mean, if he came out of nowhere and said, actually, what I'll do is I will put these characteristics into this new character called Rebecca Warren the Rabbit, who has a thing for a character called Lilac the Badger. 2 brand new characters that has no bearing or will not affect the current existing storylines between the other characters. I say, have at it. Because like I say, you're not changing established characters to suit your own agenda for what you want. And, you've brought 2 new characters in whereby you can do that because it's something that you can work with. But no, it's like, no, I need to make Sally lesbian because reasons. I was like, no, No. If you wanted Sally that way from the beginning, then do it from the beginning. Don't suddenly change her that way just because it suits a narrative. I could be open to the idea of her being bi, because there are some people who play with the idea in some fan fiction stories of her going that way, but I'm not going to go airing details here because this is not the place to do this, and also because discretion.
That's rare.
But to suddenly make her go another way just because it suits him, I'm like, no, it'd be like if Raiden had his own comic book series on Blade, and he says, right, I want you to have these specific characteristics, but put this into a new character that's going to be like Blade's protege for the future. Call her Tanya Warwick. Has studied under Blade for years because she lost her father in similar circumstances to how Blade lost his mother to the influences of the dark side of vampirism and what have you. Say, I want her to be, bisexual because why not? And then all of a sudden, his head writer says, can't we give this to Blade? He'd be like, the fuck are you doing? It's like, don't mess with that. Put it into this new character. It's like, oh, well, but they prefer, one of the established characters' terms. Like, no. They want a character of their own. They like the established characters the way they are because that's what they've grown up knowing. If they want a character that has these specific social messages, they'll create one of their own. It'd be like if someone tasked Wayne with making a new character for Slayers. Let's say Marlena the Witch Slayer. Let's say, for the sake of discussion, similar powers to Lena, has Lena's knowledge and experience, but is a little bit more tact and doesn't have so many of her faults and what have you, and happens to be a lady lover. And then the editor, then will come around and say, why can't we put these attributes into Lena? And she'll be like, okay, first of all, no. Second of all, go fuck yourself.
I'd be a bit more polite about it, but you're not wrong. I'll go, no, I'm not changing features of an established character already. I can make a new character, but if you can't compromise with that, I'm going to have to ask you to kindly leave my office and not come back until you've gotten your shit.
I mean, there are things that I have to word this carefully. There are concepts I would float around and implement into established characters, like little quirks they would do, like if they're watching a movie, they might crack their knuckles getting themselves settled in, or they might have at least 2 sodas by their side. Small little things that that just it's just like an extra layer to them. You don't come in and change all the change the layers to where it resembles nothing of the original character, because even if a character evolves over time, you still look at them like, for example, I know I use Will Smith from Fresh Prince a lot, but I feel like there's relevance to this. The very first episode, he's brash, he's overconfident, he's cocky, doesn't have a a lot of self-awareness or self-respect, or even too much respect for others. You know, but there is that sense of decency and a sense of goodness about him. By the time you get to the last episode, he's matured. He has a lot of responsibility, but he still has that same aura and still that same likability that made the audience fall in love with him from the very first episode. He's still the same character. He's just matured and evolved, and he's still got that same type of charisma. What Ian Flynn did with Sally is he basically turned her inside out to where the original qualities of her were gone. And instead of having a flawed three-dimensional character that was also a competent and cerebral leader, he turned her into a pandering Mary Sue. Because Ian Flynn's an asshole, that's why.
Typical.
I mean, that'd be like taking Dinobot, a badass, fight to the death, take no prisoners attitude, and will always do things in the name of honor, because that was one of his credos, and then turn him into a quipping, snarky, cowardly douchebag. That ain't Dinobot.
No.
Yikes.
Oh no.
My point.
No.
My point exactly. Yeah.
Besides, all the snarkiness is supposed to go to Rat Trap. You don't do that to Dinobot.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which is why, I mean, I don't know if the Knight Rider comic is still going, but if it does, Ian Flynn, keep your fucking mitts off of that. You leave my Knight Rider alone.
IDW, I think, needs to reconsider the position of Ian Flynn in there.
I agree. He's going to be a kiss of death to that company.
I think at this stage I'd rather have Ken Penders back. At least his storylines were entertaining.
Yeah, at least his writing's good. You don't have to agree with any personal points of view, but his writing was actually good.
Sorry to end it here, guys, but I think...
No, that's fine, dude. You gotta do what you gotta do.
That's fair. You have a good trip home, Steve.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, sorry if I seemed a bit desperate to come on tonight.
Nah, don't. No, it's all
No
good.
prob, no prob.
And
You're
thanks for having me on again. And
It's alright.
Always a pleasure.
hope you have fun for the rest of the episode. And congratulations, MJ, on making it to 100.
Thanks.
Until the next time.
You too, man. Take it easy.
See you later.
Yeah. So yeah, Flynn. I got nothing further to say to him, other than, you know, I don't wish for someone to get fired. No. What I want IDW is just to take one good long look at his resume, his, you know, what he has produced, and just logically say, is this guy worth it? And I don't think he is.
Nope.
Not really.
No. Because, like the previous video, I didn't have a lot of time for him before. I've got even less time for him now. The comic will not improve until he is made to 86 out of there. Yeah. Screw him. And it's interesting how he'll say, oh, there's a video narking on me. Where's the video? Who's the person doing it?
Source, sir, get the fuck out, dude.
Yep.
Or else the only thing you're gonna look like is a needy Sarkeesian with a neckbeard.
Oh, let's not bring her into question.
The only thing I can say positively about her is that she's kind of cute. And
yeah, Ian, not so much.
No.
I normally try not to narc on looks, but he's kind of an asshole, so I can get away with. If you're an asshole, I'm gonna hit below the belt.
Take it easy, Aaron. It's all good. Ian Flynn's probably one of those guys that if a if a girl was asked to go out with him, it's like, hang on, I need 4 beers. It's like, still feels like 5 beers. No, not drunk enough yet.
Or if you need a shorter description, for those who like to read their subreddit stories like I do out of boredom, look up r/nice guys.
Oh dear.
I'm not wrong.
Trouble is, there's 2 types of nice guys. There's
I'm talking about not good, and not the kind that who are genuinely kind, compassionate, and caring. I mean the quote-unquote nice guys that'll kind of pretend that they're cool, they're all for equal opportunities, paying you compliments and being a complete gentleman, but the minute you decline them, even if so politely, they lose their shit and call you every name under the sun. Hell, I've seen some Facebook messages people screenshotted on that subreddit of a few losing their mind because the person they were talking to doesn't respond to them with it under 5 minutes. Who does that?
Oh,
Who does that?
I've seen an embodiment of I've been nice to you, so you owe me a relationship.
Yeah, that's exactly what the subreddit is.
The one who ends up being the ultimate antagonist in Megamind.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sort of milady. Them
Yeah,
sort of
that.
people. Ugh.
Yeah, that's kind of what the subreddit is about, and there is a female equivalent for those who are about to say, "Oh, that's sexist." No, there are some equally crazy girls out there. It's just I'm using r/lace guys because it's relevant to describing Ian Flynn.
Mm-hmm. Maybe in a minute now. It's one of the reasons if I'm talking with girls, I don't try to purposely push for things like that because 1, rejection is not fun, and 2, if you're in a place whereby everything is platonically friendly, that things are still going to be nice afterwards. And I've been like I say, I've been rejected a few times, and I'm like, no, I've played this game once or twice. I've played this game once before. It didn't end so well for me, so I'm just going to keep it friendly. But as you say, they're the ones that push for it, and they're surprised when they don't get things go their way. It's something I remember my brother saying. I think this kind of applies here. Always keep your expectations low and act like you're not going to get anything, because if you set yourself up for If you set yourself to get up nothing, and then you get something, then okay. But if you set yourself up for nothing and you get nothing, then you're not going to be disappointed. It's just like, oh, okay. Because then you don't bring down your self-esteem points, which, that's not a fun place to be. But no, you know, you just... It also comes across as creepy with, with that aspect of the personality that he's going with, because no, and also people can smell bullshit a mile away. Yeah, no time for people like that.
I was gonna say, and speaking of your bro, he actually knows how to write proper characters.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Flynn, if you want to write an LGBTQ couple so badly and you want to do it right, should you ever someday decide to take criticism, look no further than the characters Daisy Woods and Stella. Their relationship developed quite nicely, and they're so adorable together!
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing.
But then again, Stella has always been a bit adorable. I love Stella.
Yeah.
Me, I'm Stella.
Well, I mean, I don't, even when I was heavily into writing, whether it be regular fiction or fan fiction, I don't try to write something that feels forced. I just try to look at it from the perspective of, how would this character say this? How would this character say that? Do something.
Yeah, that's kind of why I like the writings between Sally and Moto. They actually interact very realistically.
Yep. Yeah, and also, nobody, it's the same thing in Hollywood now. People are sick to death of SJW woke narratives being forced in. I mean, why is it, and granted this is just based on the trailer alone, why do you think for Ghostbusters 3 none of that shit seems to be even apparent? I mean, some people go and say, oh, the Sonic movie could have had an SJW narrative, a family-friendly movie that's aimed more at, young families and hardcore fans. Really?
And given the feedback that Paramount took from the design, I highly doubt they would shoot themselves in the foot after working so hard to improve.
And also, did you see this video last week?
Which one?
This was near the beginning of last week's episode.
I haven't yet, but I'll probably take a look at it at my leisure, because I realized it's 5:10 and my D&D group is about to get ready to start.
Basically, the video in question, it's something that Yellow Flash 2 was covering. According to an article by thegamer.com, they think that for the sequel, Sonic and Tails should be in a relationship.
No.
Oh,
no.
Yeah, I remember that.
Fuck that. If you want to hint at a potential partner, I'd say if Sega does have the rights and they get permission, do a small little hint of a certain red-headed chipmunk.
Mm-hmm. They're even going so far to say, oh, we'd like to see Sonic and Tails and Knuckles have a menage a trois situation. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I don't kink shame. What you do is on your spare time, as long as it's consensual and whatnot, but in Sonic, no. Time and place, people.
And also...
I'll let you finish first.
Also, the guy went on to say, I can tell you this, not gonna happen. Sega is a very Japanese company, and by extension, they're a very conservative company. They have to sign off on everything that gets presented to them. That is not gonna happen. It just won't.
Yeah, and on that, I need to hop out. The natives are getting restless. You and Raiden have a really good night.
I might, if it's all the same with you, Ren, I might go break out because throat's starting to get a little bit dry and I actually want to get a decent night's sleep for a change because last couple of evenings it's been a few early mornings and yeah, struggling here a little bit.
No
All right,
problem,
well,
no problem. Get your rest.
Well, you both have a very good night, and as the night signs off upon my departure, I will see you folks next week.
Look forward
Also,
to it.
Navi loves you.
Wow. Indeed.
Bye bye.
See you when.
Yeah.
And on that note, until next week, I have been the Knight.
And I've been the cybernetic but energetic, last known mighty disciple Zen Master.
Good night from the night.
100! 100! 100!
Mm-hmm. Thanks for joining us.